Good evening. This is the Tuesday, November 28th, 2023 regular meeting of the Flemington Borough Planning Board. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. Both adequate and electronic notice of this meeting is to be provided by way of publication in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News newspapers on or about January 18th, 2023. In addition, notice of the meeting was posted on the door of the Borough of Flemington Municipal Building located here at 38 Park Avenue, and any handicap accessible entrance there too. Posted on the municipal website provided to the municipal clerk and distributed to all persons, if any, requesting copies of same. This meeting is being recorded with both audio and video and may be rebroadcast. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in relation to the and decorum appropriated to a judicial hearing and must be maintained at all times. I'll ask everyone please rise as we're able for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Liberty for
justice for all.
Mayor Carroll here. Councilwoman Engelhardt
Here.
Mr. Campion,
Here.
Joshua here. Mr. Levitt
Here.
Mr. Cook
Here.
Ms. Giffen Ms. Weitzman
Here.
Mr. Hill
Here.
Mr. Semino
Here.
Mr. Eckel
Here.
Ms. DeMario is excused. Mr. Show
Here.
Ms. Kaczynski here. Mr. Clerico
Here.
Ms. McManus here. Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 1 on the agenda, as always, is a period for public comments for items not currently in front of the board. If any member of the public wishes to speak, please raise your real or virtual hand. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 2, mayor comments.
Madam Chair, last night, the Liberty Village redeveloper came to an executive session with the council. He did a presentation for the entire council to see where he was with the subdivision. He now has an assignment to talk to a couple of business owners at Stengel. His application, his submission for permitting with the DEP includes raising parts of Stengel Road in the public right of way, as well as doing some work with retaining walls on 2 of the businesses on Stengel. There are a lot of rumors about these walls that they're as high as 5 feet high. So he has to talk to the 2 business owners, and he will be doing a public presentation on December 6th at 6 p.m. To show the public where he is and discuss the project and its changes. I would say it was going to be in this room, but I'm not sure, as this room is rated for only 49 people. We need to look for a larger space as part of the notice. So, but I wanted everybody here to know that it will be, that this is happening December 6th.
Just a quick question.
Absolutely.
Are we anticipating any changes to the timeline we talked about?
So he stated to the council that he was talking about the planning board, where it's been rush, push. He's now said something to the effect of the end of January, February.
Okay.
And, Ms. Engelhardt can concur with that, if that's her understanding of what he said also. So I'm not sure he needs the 16th.
Okay, so we don't have to necessarily, we can leave it on for now, but okay, so we don't need it, that would certainly make it a little easier.
Right, I mean, our timetable, unless if there's some kind of massive pushback from the public or from these business owners that get the governing body to say, wait, we need to go back and talk again, our timetable, the council's timetable remains to introduce the RBA, the plan amendments, but it depends on whether or not.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Was it December 6th? December 6th, you said 6th, but then you to the 4th last week.
I think it was the week of the fourth.
Oh, the week, so it's a
So
special
it's
meeting of the
scheduled
sixth?
For the sixth, but I put it, what I think I said was the week of the fourth, but you were on screen. And it dropped almost.
So December sixth is a Wednesday.
Correct,
Okay,
and it is six. I just can't say that the location is gonna be in this room. Because I just don't feel good about that.
makes sense. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Council comments.
I think that Marcia represented everything exactly as I heard it yesterday. And I'm in agreement. I would prefer, and I think I even sent a note to the chair saying the same thing today, that I'd prefer not to have anything seemed rushed or it, so therefore I think that I think I was very pleased to hear that the developer was interested in late December, early February for planning board. So I agree, we don't need that extra meeting, but I'm glad we talked about it and put it on there just in case. But I think it's a good thing to, look forward to it at the end of January, early February. And as far as the walls are concerned, I think overall, the impression of the council was that they were a lot lower than we had feared, and actually a lot the section, I think, was the telling point, and we asked them to make sure that they represented that very clearly to the public, because I think that will help graphically explain it. And I think the highest wall was 16 inches high, so it's more of a big curve than a wall.
Thanks, Stephen.
And that's it. That's all the report I have.
Thank you. Item 4, HBC comments, Dennis.
We have our next HPC meeting on December 13th, and we're going to address the comments from the proposed historic district map changes and then come back to the planning board. That's all I've got tonight.
Yeah, so just update from when we last had this discussion. We are not going to have that public hearing in December that we had originally thought we might. We're going to give the HPC time to come back and do their work. So it'll be hopefully sometime in January we'll be able to move forward with those changes. So thanks, Dennis. Item 5 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the November 14th, 2023 regular meeting. Those were circulated, and then a correction was circulated relatively late.
Yes, I'm sorry for the lateness. Mr. Levitt corrected some of the voting motion and second on the Chick-fil-A and on the bills, as he was not present at that time of the. Those
So,
were corrected.
Thank you. So can I get a motion and a second on the corrected minutes?
Second, go.
Any further clarifications or corrections?
Mayor Carroll,
Yes,
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Councilwoman Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Joshna,
Yes.
Mr. Levitt,
Yes.
Ms. Giffen, Ms. Weitzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda this evening is Resolution 2023-17, Flemington Realty Partners LLC application, memorializing action taken by the board on application 2023-04, Block 39, Lot 6, 78 Church Street, a minor site plan. I think you've got the language all squared.
Council's also,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
you're welcome. Council's also here tonight.
Thank
I've
you.
indicated that we made the changes that we agreed to and the resolution is ready to be adopted.
I would make that motion.
Any further discussion?
Actually, you're not on
You
the.
can't second. You weren't on that one. It's okay. I'll second. You can do it.
Mayor,
Yeah.
Mayor, and Mr. Levitt. Is, second. Okay. Councilwoman Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mr. Joshna,
Yes.
Ms. Weitzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Show.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7 on the agenda is the resolution 2023-18 memorializing action taken with regards to application 2023-02, block 35, lot 6013 Brown Street. We are still working on that one.
It is done.
It is
It
done.
is done. However, I got an email from counsel for the applicant, within an hour and a half ago, asking if we would table it because he wants to talk about it. So,
Okay,
we'll
so
table that for the next
we'll
meeting.
table that for the next meeting then. All right. Item 8 on the agenda for this evening is the public hearing for Bless Wellness LLC, Block 44, Lot 7, 313 US 22, a minor site plan. For those who might be interested in the Central Station LLC application, which is also on the agenda, that one, at the request of the applicant, is going to be carried, only that official announcement in a little bit, to December 19th. So if you're here for that one, that's not happening until the 19th. Just let everybody know. So we'll continue, we'll move to item 8, the public hearing for Bless Wellness. I'm gonna remote that laptop to panelists, click on OK. And turn on the camera, but don't worry about the audio, just use the mic. You can pull the microphone just a little bit closer. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. My name is Lawrence Escatello. I'm an attorney with Tools Frevo in Cedar Grove. Represent Bless Wellness LLC. Bless Wellness is here tonight seeking minor site plan approval and conditional use approval for 313 US Route 202 in Flemington, New Jersey, block 44, lot 7. And those approvals are sought to occupy and fit out an existing vacant building into an approximately 3,500 square foot cannabis recreational retail dispensary as authorized by the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Enforcement Assistance and Marketplace Modernization Act. For those of you not familiar with the site, Bless is seeking to occupy the vacant 25 Burgers building located at that address. The property is fully developed now. And it has been the subject of many site plan applications dating back to the early 1990s. The building that Bless seeks to occupy was formerly a Pizza Hut restaurant and most recently a 25 Burgers restaurant. So at this point, Bless seeks to move in, fit out that building, and occupy it for its cannabis dispensary use. The building itself is located in the Highway Retail District, where cannabis retail establishments are a conditionally permitted use. The purpose of the application is for any traditional site plan improvements or exterior improvements. It's more or less an application to get the conditional use approval and to occupy the building. The Bless complies with all the conditional use regulations that are set forth in your ordinance. We'll go through them in some quick detail tonight, but we do comply. Beyond that, our presentation will consist of our site plan engineer, Betsy Dolan, our architect, Mike Elkin, our owner representative, Leo Guzman, who is going to be appearing via Zoom. He has a COVID exposure issue. He really wanted to be here tonight, but cannot. But we're going to avail ourselves of the Zoom option so that we can move forward with the application. And then, to the extent needed, we have a special planner, Jeff Stiles, who will talk about any signage as well as the conditional use conditions. So without any further delay, I'd like to call the first witness.
Great.
Mr. Chair, if I may, let's just confirm, any all the notices and proofs are being provided and I don't know, in the order of the board head jurisdiction. As we usually do, we will mark as exhibit A1, the application and supporting documentation. A2 will be the proofs of publication and mailing. We will also mark as PV1. Mr. Clerico's letter, technical review letter dated November 22nd, 2023. PV2 will be Ms. McManus's letter, dated November 22, 2023. And PV3 will be Mr. Troutman's letter dated November 28, 2023. If the applicant has any other exhibits, we will start marking them with a and
Conflicts. We can find.
a conflict with any
Members of the board.
members of the board with regard to this application. Personal, financial, pecuniary, or director and
Just making sure.
absolutely.
All right.
I wanted to
And
say, make some joke, but I'm kind of trying.
one, two, three. And why don't we swear in all your witnesses at once?
Sure.
Yeah, to the extent that they don't have time.
So Mr. Guzman is on Zoom, so I think we can, I'll put into panelists for the moment.
Come on,
I said he, but I'm also him yet. Try it again. You can also-
no, we can.
There, we go. Now, here we go.
Got him?
Yep, just needed to turn his camera on for half a second. Mute so that we can see it here.
There we go.
All right.
All right, great. Do you all swear the testimony you're about to give this board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
And then as they each come up to testify, you can just give us your name, spell it for the record, and qualify.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna ask, if we can just angle the laptop just so we can get both of y'all on camera for our remote participants and just use the microphone and
Okay.
thank you.
We were wondering how this was gonna work when we came in.
It works, it works.
Great.
Mostly.
Hey, Ms. Dolan. Would you give the board the benefit of your professional and educational qualifications?
Sure. I'm Elizabeth Betsy Dolan, Dolan and Dean Consulting Engineers at 181 West High Street in Somerville, New Jersey. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Rutgers. For 37 years now, I have focused primarily in the areas of traffic and transportation engineering with focus on access design, NJDOT permitting, parking analyses and supplies, and traffic impacts. I'm a licensed professional engineer registered in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. I've kept up my continuing education credits, so my license is in good standing. I've testified in about 300 municipalities throughout New Jersey. I've been here, but it's been many, many years since I was last in front.
Any objections or questions from professionals? Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to qualify
Yes.
Ms. Dolan as an expert in engineering and traffic engineering.
Okay.
Ms. Dolan, did you or your office contribute to the preparation of the site plan that was submitted with the application package here tonight?
We did, and I have a blown up version of the plan that was submitted. I don't know if that has to be marked. No, okay, it's the exact same plan. It's dated 8/29, which I know is referenced in the review letters.
And just so we can see for the record, the sheet number.
It is sheet number 1 of 1. And it's signed by my partner, Gary W. Dean. So licensed in New Jersey and neighboring states with these licenses in good standing. The site plan is somewhat limited in scope. You may recall that the Burger King had somewhat recently been approved. I think that was maybe 2016 or so. But this is a site located, and I don't know, for the purposes of the video and so forth.
So if it was part of the original application, it's on the website and folks, remote folks can pull it up digitally, so don't stress about putting it in front of.
Okay, well,
And if you want it as an exhibit for folks in the audience, that's great. And to the board, that's fine, but don't worry about.
Sure. Yeah, there's not much magic to this one. The site is located on southbound 202. And at the top of the page is Route 31. We've got that interconnection. The Wawa would be at the top middle page of the page. At the bottom is the existing Burger King. Towards the middle bottom is the Pearl Vision Center. And then the subject location was originally Pizza Hut, then it was 25 burgers with drive-through. That's in the center of the site, and we've got a dark line basically outlining the area that we're talking about. The site plan changes are very minimal. We're looking to remove the freezer unit from the back of the building and create storage. And instead of having a drive-through window, drive-through service and pickup, we'll convert that area to a hatched loading zone. And that is designed for vans and FedEx, UPS type smaller trucks. We are not the proposed dispensary is not a truck generator. The deliveries are all made in small vehicles, basically passenger vehicles. And the site has been designed to accommodate that in the past. We're proposing some hatching and signage to denote that that would be the change from drive-through, which is had been on pavement, to a delivery area only. The parking and circulation will all be maintained. Within this heavy black line are 83 parking spaces. There's a total of 110 on the subject property. We're not proposing any changes, although the engineering review calls out a possible need to restrike for another 1 or 2 ADA compliant stalls. We can do that without creating a variance. It's noted in the planning review that there's no parking variance required. So in terms of the site plan, I know there's been a request from the engineering review to upgrade pavement, sidewalks, handicap ramps, and so forth, and we're certainly willing to do that. I think there's a question about validating the existing lighting, which we can comply with. So in terms of the site plan, I brought it here just to, give everyone a frame of reference, but really we're looking at just minor changes around the building itself, just to convert the drive-through to a delivery area. So in terms of the trip generation, parking, DOT, and so forth, there was a letter that was issued by my partner, Gary Dean, dated April 29, 2023, and I know that was submitted and reviewed. We are on a state highway, and so it was our duty to review any possible DOT permitting associated with the reoccupancy with a different type of tenant. We actually are showing a reduction in trip generation because the dispensary is not quite as busy in terms of driveway movements as the former, what would be called fast food drive-through. So we're looking at a reduction of about 48 to 90 trips during our peak hours. So we don't have any requirement to obtain a permit from DOT. We're not changing any of the access configuration. So there's no work within the right of way that would trigger a permit, and there's no what they call significant increase in traffic. So we're exempt from any DOT permitting with this re-tenancy. We're looking in a busiest peak hour, about 50 vehicles coming in, 50 vehicles going out. That's the threshold that's considered just about significant in traffic engineering terms. But when you compare those 100 trips with 190 for a fast food restaurant, you can see we're talking about an overall reduction. And that doesn't account for any maybe interactivity between uses that are sharing access and parking. In terms of the parking, I noted that we don't require a variance. There's actually a surplus on the site. We've got 110 parking spaces. There are 83 in reasonable proximity to the building where the dispensary is proposed without having to rely on the Pearl Vision parking or the Burger King parking. And the way the site lays out with the circulation aisles, it sort of defines the parking for each of those 3 uses, even though the Pearl building and most of its parking is in Raritan, the municipal boundary straddles the property. When we issued the August 29, 2023 letter on traffic and parking, the Institute of Transportation Engineers had the 5th edition of the parking generation manual. And for the size and type of use, they had parking demand data from Colorado from different dispensaries. And that showed a demand of about 25 for the proposed building area that's just in excess of 3,000 square feet. Just within the past 2 weeks, we got the 6th edition And the sixth edition of parking generation now includes more research sites from New Jersey in addition to Colorado. And it's actually shown a reduction in the demand. And that seems to be because there's more and more dispensaries opening, so there's less demand. It would bring the demand down from about 25 to 19. There are 16 required for the Burger King. We've got 110 on site. So as I said, in complying with the engineering review comments, and if we need to provide another few ADA spaces, that may make us lose one or two, but that would not put us into any type of parking variance. So from our review and review of the available data and having visited the site as well, there certainly seems to be more than enough parking required. More than enough parking for the demands of the different uses. I would also point out, and you'll hear a little bit more testimony about operations later, but there's anticipated to be 2 shifts for employees. And each shift would be 10 to 12 employees with an overlap from about somewhere between 2 in the afternoon and 5 p.m. So you might have, an overlapping demand somewhere in the 20 to 24 space range. But those employee spaces can be provided on the periphery of the dispensary building site, leaving all the prime parking for the patrons. There's parking right up against the building and just on the other side of that delivery lane that had historically been the drive-through lane. So I think the site lays out very well. No trucks generated by this reduction in peak hour activity, and certainly enough parking for the different uses. And even I would expect maybe the newer use demands, when a site first opens, there may be a little bit more of a parking demand, it may be a little bit busier. So we certainly have 80 plus spaces that would more than satisfy the employee activity plus the customer demand.
Now, Ms. Dolan, you mentioned that FedEx trucks in the light may come to the site. Do you anticipate that they would park in front of an entrance to the building, do their delivery and leave, or would they try to go through that drive-through line?
They'll probably just park in front of the building. That's what they do. The deliveries of the goods to the store are going to be secured, and they will have to come in through the rear door. There's a rear door in the vicinity of the existing freezer in the back of the building. But FedEx, they usually just come straight in the front door and park wherever they want.
So there'd be no need for that truck to try to squeeze around that truck.
That's correct. But if they chose to, there's really nothing to obstruct them, because we've got just a striped lane to designate the drive-through, what was the drive-through and is now the proposed delivery area from the main circulation aisle. So if a FedEx truck did go back there, they might encroach over the line a little bit, but they certainly have the geometry without impacting the parking on that southerly side of the building.
Good. And we had, you had pointed out the dark black line on the site plan. Is your understanding that is sort of left over from a previously recorded easement that has been extinguished?
Yes, it's my understanding that the original Pizza Hut had a lease arrangement, and there is a lease line that is shown just beyond the black heavy line that wraps around, and then there's a notch over in the vicinity of Pearl, and it wraps around. But it is my understanding that was extinguished with the departure of Pizza Hut from the site.
So in other words, there are 83 common parking spaces available to patrons of the dispensary,
Yeah,
without regard to that whatever was in that easement for.
that's correct. Within the dark line on the site plan, that's the 83 spaces that I was speaking about, 83 existing. And if we had to add, for example, within this area, there's 2 handicap spaces. We probably need a third. So when we restripe, we might lose a space in that area. Because I think there's only 1 down at the Burger King. Oh no, there are 2. But we'll take a look at that. If the third one is needed, we can provide that again. Not causing a hardship.
Very good. That's all I have on the rest.
So our procedure usually is to do questions, or professionals, or members of the board, and then for the members of the public. And we tend to do that witness by witness. I'm gonna start with Jay. Any traffic questions?
No questions.
No questions, you're good. All right, so Bob, good.
I'm just confirming that some of the recommendations and that's enacting the existing site in terms of handicap. You know, no issues, no discussion, you'll comply.
Will comply, yes.
Staff, do you have any questions?
I have questions about the landscape plan. Are you ready?
No, I think they've got somebody else handling.
No.
Never do.
Just one, could you just explain, I might have misunderstood, the easement, so that dark area was previously an easement area that was leased, part of the lease with Pizza Hut? Is that what you're saying?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
It was a specific terms of the lease with that tenant.
That area must be restricted for use.
For their
parking.
use, yeah. And I think what our current arrangement is a little bit different. It
Okay.
doesn't require that
Okay.
that type of lease line.
And I can explain that a little bit more. It wasn't to simplify it, the Pizza Hut and the owner at the time prepared a lease, and for whatever reason, they essentially recorded an easement saying that Pizza Hut had this leasehold interest and Pizza Hut would be responsible for certain programs such as snow plowing and maintenance. It didn't restrict that portion of the site to be used by Pizza Hut patrons. It was sort of really memorialization of the lease.
Oh.
And quite frankly, I'm not sure why they went that far to record a lease.
But it's your understanding that's since been extinguished?
Yes, the term by its own terms that recorded document terminated when Pizza Hut's lease terminated.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Is your client gonna have a leased area on the site? My recollection was when we did Burger King, that there was a defined lease area for them. I'm just curious to know if you're gonna have something similar.
So perhaps the client rep can talk to this more, but I'll just speak to it now. The current lease does not sort of set out the rights the same way the Burger King lease did. It was, again, I believe, leased at the time of a different owner of the site. But there are obligations that Bless Wellness has to maintain the property, to snowplow this portion of the site, and to landscape it and make any improvements that it wants to. We can Mr. Zaman can speak more to that, but that's what the lease in essence says.
Members of the board remote who have got questions on the testimony of the engineer. Susan, go ahead.
My question relates to I believe it's 3 spaces of the 83 that are identified on the Raritan Township side. I believe those 3 spaces on one drawing we received looks like it's dedicated to Pearl, which based on the conversation you just had may not even be applicable anymore. And my concern is, do those 3 spaces that overlap into Raritan Township, can they be some way not included in the parking count? I want to respect our neighbors of Raritan Township, since they do not have a dispensary permitted in their ordinances. I want to make sure that our parking counts are accurate. Can you confirm that if you take those 3 spaces out, that you can document that properly? I don't know if that question makes sense.
It does. It's our intention, and we think our drawings are accurate, that the dispensary does not intend to use any portion of the property in Raritan in connection with this use in certain ways, and that includes parking. We don't intend for our patrons to park in any space in Raritan, and it's my understanding that the site plan drawings are accurate in that regard. Also, we can certainly, limit where our patrons will park, and if there's some note to be made on the site plan in that regard, we're happy to do it. And if Ms. Dolan has anything to add to clarify the site plan drawing, she's certainly free to do that now.
No, I would concur with your comments. If the board felt signage or anything was appropriate, we could provide that.
I think that would be great if that could be documented some way in the resolution and or on the drawings. And then my other question is related to landscape, so that I'll hold until later.
Thanks, Susan. Dennis, Jim, Hannah, Mike, any questions?
No.
Go down this way. No, Karen?
No.
Karen?
Yeah, I had one question. I just want to confirm that the connection between the rest of the shopping plaza and like Wawa and everything to Burger King will be restored.
Yeah,
Or is that
it will be, yeah.
Cool.
I mean, you could drive through there now. It's kind of a bit of a war zone, but that,
there's fencing in there? There's fencing up.
there's fencing, but you can drive around the fencing and then you can get through there, yeah.
Thank you. That was my only question.
I wanted to ask about sewer capacity. Most of my questions are landscape, so I'm going to defer on that, but sewer capacity, I assume that a restaurant had a higher capacity than you need for this dispensary. So are you going to be, Mike, then do you know, will you be returning sewer capacity to us?
I don't know. Ms. Dolan has not done a deep dive into that, but we would, either someone on your end or someone on our end would have to try to figure that out. We don't believe that we would be using as much sewer or water as a restaurant, but with any, I don't have any data in that regard here with me tonight.
Okay, any members of the public with questions to the engineering testimony, please raise your real or virtual hand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank Paul Michael Elkin of GKA Architects PC. GKA Architects PC. Is that right?
GK plus A is a plus sign.
GK
Plus A.
There we go.
Architects.
Thank you. Am I explaining this?
ELKIN.
Thank you.
Mr. Elkin, could you give the board the benefit of your educational and professional experience?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Architecture degree from Carnegie Mellon University. I was principal in the firm Elkin, Sabolton and Associates for 43 years. 2 years ago, my partner and I merged our firm into GKA Plus Architects, and I am currently a staff architect for GKA Plus A Architects. I've appeared before numerous boards throughout the state over my, I hate to say, 45 years of practicing, and my license is up to date. My education is up to date. Don't need anything else.
Undoubtedly, you've been qualified as an expert in architecture by Land Use Board of the State of New Jersey over those 45 years.
Yes.
Any questions from our professionals or members of the board?
I'd like to qualify Mr. Elkin as an expert in architecture.
Okay.
Mr. Elkin, did you prepare or contribute to the preparation of the floor plans and renderings that were filed in connection with this development application?
Yes, it did.
And do you, have those floor plans with you?
Yes.
tonight?
I do.
Let me help you hold them.
Were those also part of the initial?
This sheet was part of the original submission that you have.
And can we just for the record indicate what sheet that is?
Let me clarify. So the sheet was part of the original application package, about 2 weeks ago. We submitted, a slight revision that included bubbles around the freezer that Ms. Dublin referred to.
That became the storage room. Freezer will be removed and the storage will be constructed on proper foundation.
So this is not the exact same drawing as what
This
was.
is not the.
Not the original.
So let's mark
Mark
this
it.
as A3 as an exhibit, yes? Work with three.
And you're not going to A3, can you just make the date and exactly what sheet that is?
I can do that. Okay. It is, the date is 11/14/23. It's revision 1 of, A 1.0. Anyone wants, that?
Well, just for the board's recollection, or for the board's edification, we will mark this as exhibit A3. It was submitted at least 10 days prior to the hearing. So, and you just posted it on the website?
It was posted on the website and distributed electronically to the board members.
Okay, Mr. Upton, could you, walk the board through how it would, interact with this, building?
Basically, the interior will be got renovated and this would be the new layout. What you see in dark are new walls, the ones that are not built in solid or resistant walls. The main entrance to the building is the bottom of the sheet, through the original vestibule. As soon as you walk in, there is a reception desk where your ID will be checked. You can't go any further until your ID is checked and approved. You then come into the main space of the building. There'll be display areas. There'll be an employee that will be wandering through the area. And if you have any questions, you would be able to question him. Is towards the back, well, let me just go back a little bit. There's a lot of glass in the existing restaurant. That glass, which you'll see on the elevation, will be covered for privacy with a film, so you cannot look in and see who's inside. There are 2 areas of sale, basically, one along the back wall and one along the right side wall. The one along the back wall, people there, if you have questions, they'll be able to answer them. You spend a little time picking out what product you want. On the ones on the right side, basically people who come in know exactly what they want. You go, they pick it up and basically leave. On further, the existing restrooms remain just as is, no changes. They'll be obviously cleaned up and anything that needs to be repaired, but they're basically gonna stay as is. There'll be a fulfillment vault room type where product will be kept. There's a non-cannabis storage room, a small kitchenette for staff, a tiny office, and an electronics room. As noted, where the refrigerator room will be removed, new room will be added exactly the same size. We're not increasing the square footage at all. Deliveries will be made through the side door. Product would be brought into the storage room first, where it'll be recorded so they know exactly what they have. And once that's done, it then gets moved into and opened and put into the fulfillment room. That's basically the operation. When you're done purchasing, you go out the same way you came in.
And as indicated, this the area labeled product fulfillment vault is where the product is stored, and then where you have labeled pass through window, the product is then passed through to
this area and then walked across to the back of the rear counter. Basically a simple operation, much space. As far as the exterior of the building, the rendering of the building, and what's basically going to happen is going to remain as is, except it'll be completely painted, including the roof, which we'll see in a second. The existing signs, boxes will be reused for the new signs. And there's a pylon sign out front that will be also reused.
Okay, so we can just mark that one, because I don't think color version was submitted.
No, probably black and white was submitted.
Okay, yeah, so let's mark as A4, it's a colorized version of.
The rendering.
Yes, sheet,
R 1.0.
thank you.
As you can see, the windows will have the film on them with the light appearing logo of the company.
It's your understanding that those are films that are placed over the windows?
Yes,
Can you explain any more detail you can give to how that film is used?
It basically it's just glued on the back of the window.
Okay.
This is, the bottom is existing, this drawing was not submitted. Our bottom photo is of the building as it was. And the photo above is basically the building as it's being painted at the moment. And you can see the improvements of the building. It'll all look brand new when it's done.
Okay, so we'll mark that as A5. If you could just give me I have a reference photo below is the old building, photo above is as renovated. Can you give me a date and then if there's a title on that?
Sure.
Sheet number.
The date is again, November 14th, 23.
Sheet number.
Sheet R 2.0.
On here is also is the signage, as I said, basically it's taking the two existing sign boxes and reusing, relighting them and well, you can see it in the rendering. You can see it in the little rendering where we show the signage. It'll be just the same signs plus the pylon sign, which will be the exact same pylon sign that's out there now, just reused again.
And the dimensions of the signage are set forth on the sign rendering.
Yes, they are.
Or direct the Mr. Elke.
So we'll go to our professionals. Jay, do you have any questions, the architect? Bob, do you have any questions?
On the real door on the building, is that going to be used as part of the operation?
Not really. I think it's just going to be for employees. Yeah, as I said, people come in, do their buying and go back out.
For the side doors off the loading area,
There's
there's
just a
security
loading.
and access for bringing products, the front doors for everyone. And the rear door is just for employees.
Employees if needed. An emergency exit also.
I have a couple questions on two of the different sign types. For the roof mounted signs, are you literally reusing those exact same boxes or are you just duplicating, creating new?
I think the idea is to reuse, paint the boxes, reuse them, and if they're too damaged, then replace them with exact same size boxes.
Okay.
Right.
And just out of curiosity, do you recall, does anybody know when they were removed from the building? I wonder how long they've been on.
Sure. Well, I've spoken to Mr. Guzman about this, and he'll tell you the same thing. They were removed, I think, a couple of weeks ago to paint the exterior of the aluminum roof.
Yeah.
And they're currently still on the site, and we plan to reinstall them afterwards, or subject to the board's approval.
And as the signage shows, they'll be painted same color as the roof. Aluminum frame.
And then on the window signs or the film that's proposed, is the privacy that you referenced, is that required for licensing or is that just desired by
The CRC regulations would require that you can't see into the dispensary. So the film is being provided to sort of not black out the windows, but to limit
visibility. Light will come through, but you really won't be able to make out faces or anything if you look.
Or products.
Or products,
yeah. The intended of the regs of.
Would the film result in any reflectivity of light? Would act as a mirror?
No.
Okay. Those are all my questions.
All right, any questions?
Yeah.
Again, we'll start with remote board members, Jim, Dennis, Anna, Mike, Susan. Okay.
Well, I don't know this. I have a comment, I'm just going to make sure it's. I'll try to explain it down. Our signage ordinance has a maximum signage area allowable. Will the proposed window film having a effectively your company sign on it, then mean that all windows, if we have to exceed the ordinance?
So, sure, so, we have, Mr. Jeff Stiles here, professional planner. I think he'll echo what I'm about to say, is that they don't count as signs, and, they wouldn't, the film wouldn't count towards the square footage, standards in your ordinance.
What about there's logos on. Again, I think everyone knows that there's a logo. Yeah.
Yeah, the logo on the windows.
It seems that the logos, and to your question.
That's what she's saying.
Towards the sign direction, not the film itself, not the area without the logo.
I understand why they're doing it. I'm just wondering, I don't want them to fall foul of our regulation by proposing it, or if we need to find variance.
I would anticipate that their planner is gonna address signage. We
Okay.
have sign variances for the roof signs that are pre-existing but have been removed, so the variance is triggered, and I think also for the window signs as well.
So we'll come back to that answer the planner, because that was one of my questions about, because we also have a reg about the square footage of a facade that can be covered with signs. So we'll get to that
But I
testimony.
think it's roof sign.
Well, the roof signs have a question. I'm talking about, there's a percentage of the storefront window that can be covered
Oh,
with
for
stuff.
the window, yes.
The windows that we get to. Yeah, okay. The other question, and just to humor me, just make sure I'm understanding, if you could just bring back the floor plan. Having never patronized 25 burgers, but having been in pizza, I just want to make sure I understand the layout. The area where the sales floor is basically the old dining area, and the vault is the old kitchen.
I believe that's.
Okay, I just make sure I understood that. Thank you. Any members of the public with questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Our next witness is Leo Guzman. He is one of the owners of the Blessed Wellness, and he is appearing virtually via Zoom.
Hello,
Mr. Guzman, spell your name for the record.
my full name is Leonardo Guzman. I do go by Leo. I apologize. I am very, very ill. I did test positive this morning for COVID. Thankfully, this Zoom was an option. We were really excited and looking forward to coming in person tonight, but this is the way it's got to be.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. I hope you're feeling a little bit better than you were this morning.
Thanks.
Could you describe your role at Blessed Wellness?
Sure. So I'm one of the owners alongside my wife and my father-in-law. So we're 100% family owned and operated business, head by my wife, who because of COVID is with our 1-year-old right now, keeping him as quarantined as possible. But she is the face and the majority owner of Blessed Wellness. So between her experience and her father's experience and my experience, I think we check all the boxes to be good operators.
Could you explain your wife and your father-in-law's experience in operating retail businesses in New Jersey?
Sure. Even before that, my father-in-law operated his father's grocery store in the Dominican Republic. That's where our families come from. So he's been working in retail since he was like 12 years old, and then came to this country and worked his way up, and has had numerous businesses, mainly related to retail. So they do have a lot of experience, and my wife has worked there and worked her way up from a cashier to now a manager, with a ton of experience. So it's one of the reasons why I think we really checked the box, because of their proven experience and what they've actually operated and done all these years. They bring a lot to the table.
And Mr. Guzman, your father-in-law is Pedro Reyes, and he is an owner of Fernandez Supermarket of Trenton. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your wife, Doris Reyes, she is also has an ownership interest in that company as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And between the two of them and yourself, you have experience in retail operations, inventory management, accounting, finance, and payroll.
Yes.
And about how many products do you guys manage and sell at the Fernandez Supermarket in Trenton?
There are about 30,000 different SKUs, significantly more than will ever be in a dispensary. Dispensaries have a couple hundred SKUs. So in terms of inventory management, this will be a lot easier for us, because there's just way less products.
Between the three of you, you also have experience selling controlled substances like tobacco at the supermarket in Trenton.
Yes.
How do you plan to hire staff and employees for this site? Or this dispensary?
We'd like to have an emphasis on local, homegrown, employees. That is our goal. That's what we're gonna set out to do, is have as many local employees as possible. They all have to go through a vigorous background check to show that they're worthy to work in a cannabis dispensary. And we're committed to hiring managers with the necessary experience in cannabis. That does make such a difference. We've worked with, or since we've been licensed, we've been fortunate enough to come into this cannabis world, and we've been able to talk to a lot of owners and operators and managers and brand ambassadors. So because of our consultants and our network, no pun intended, we really are blessed. We have the best team in the country, and they literally represent cannabis dispensaries all over the United States. We're in really good hands with them. So
to put the point on that, Mr. Guzman, your intention is to hire a store manager or store managers who have had experience in running retail cannabis dispensaries.
Definitely, yes, sir.
Thanks. Can you explain how transactions will occur in the store?
So a customer would walk in, immediately get their identification verified, and then they would be greeted by a floating, walking around bud tender that could point them into, different products and what their needs are. And it's as simple as walking up to the register. So if you look at the floor plan, I don't know if you guys are able to look at it as I'm speaking, if it's possible for them to put it up. Our plan is to have 2 express POS systems for pre-orders. Pre-orders is a really big thing right now, and it's only going to continue to grow. So we're thinking about having 2 dedicated POS systems to pre-order. So customer can walk in, have their ID check, walk straight to the POS system, show their identification again, and check out and be in and out in a timely fashion. The other side of the building, the one that's or the floor plan that's closest to the vault, since that's close to the vault and will have a pass-through window, that checkout line is more for the customer that wants to walk in and may not necessarily know what they want. But once they do, that order will be fulfilled immediately because of that pass-through window. And so that's pretty much it.
Is it, so with regard to transactions, will you be using cash and cashless ATM transactions?
Yes, majority predominantly cash. We will have ATMs in the store. The dispensaries are now allowed to use debit cards where they weren't with the original dispensaries. That rule has changed. They are allowed to use their debit card as a debit card for a fee, but not their credit card. So that does alleviate, the cash, but it'll be a combination of both.
And that's primarily because banks won't process credit card transactions for cannabis.
Correct.
And the cannabis that you are dispensing, that will be packaged in opaque, unmarked, child-proof packaging.
Yes, everything's prepackaged from the suppliers.
And your packaging will comply with New Jersey TRC regulations regarding labeling and packaging.
Yes, yes, sir.
And you're fully familiar with the site plan. You're involved with the development of it. That drive, can you just confirm to the board that drive-through will not be used for retail sales?
Yes, there will be no drive-through.
And there's no plans for curbside pickup at this point?
No, sir.
Can you confirm that the security features for the facility comply with New Jersey CRC regulations?
Certainly. The security firm that we've consulted with, it's one of the biggest security companies in the world. They've done dispensaries all over the country. So we'll certainly be fitted out with all the necessary cameras and equipment, as well as on-site security as well.
Security features include security cameras, 24-hour recording, 24-hour alarm systems. Is that correct?
Yes. We've agreed to give Flemington access to that feed as a CRC requirement. We have to give the state access to that feed as well, 24/7. We've agreed to do that. God forbid that something crazy happen, some type of theft or a robbery. There will be panic buttons behind the checkout counters as a security measure as well. We do have a security office in site, which will have all of the monitors. And like I said, we will have on-site security during operating hours.
And with regard to access controls, will you be using key card systems and the like?
Yes. Yeah, there will be key fobs, key card systems for the few employees that'll have access to the fulfillment, excuse me. Sorry, the security room and the fulfillment vault.
And to the extent the Flemington police would like a key fob, would you be willing to provide that to them in case of an emergency?
Yes, absolutely.
Will you have a Knox box?
Yes.
Can you explain the your anticipated hours of operation?
Right now, we're thinking it's going to be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week, but obviously we may change that in the future to less hours depending on business. But as of right now, I think that's what we're targeting, 9 to 9.
That those are the hours where you would be making cannabis transactions to customers.
Yes.
You also would need staff to be working in the store 1 hour before and 1 after transactions. Again, where customers are allowed in the store.
Yes. Yep, it's possible that we have to do inventory at the end of the night. Once we get good at it, hopefully we won't have to stay very late and we can get out of there by 9. So it's really going to depend on the flow of business traffic, but ideally 9 to 9.
And the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. hours where you'll have the doors open to the public and making those transactions, those comport with the Flemington's conditional review regulations for hours of operation.
Yes, I believe so.
You also heard the testimony from Ms. Dolan that you anticipate 10 to 12 employees per shift. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've also heard that same testimony from Ms. Dolan that your approximate shift times are anticipated to be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the opening shift and 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the closing shift. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you anticipate that all your employees will park at the rear of the store in that very far parking aisle at the rear of the property.
Yes, we definitely agree to that as well.
Could you briefly explain, you touched upon this earlier, how cannabis is delivered to the site, how frequently, and some of the security protocols relative to those deliveries?
Sure. They typically get delivered in like a Sprinter van or a cargo van. They're always unmarked. It's typically a white van. And we've learned this through visiting dispensaries, through our network, been able to talk to owners and operators. So it's very discreet. They're going to come depending on how the volume of the store. So it's going to be figuring out the flow of sales, basically, which again, fortunately for us, we have a ton of experience in that. So I think it'll be a quick learn for us to get the flow right of ordering and receiving our products and then putting them out for sale. So everything is, like I said earlier, is prepackaged. It comes in, again, maybe every couple of weeks, depending on how much is being purchased and how much is being sold. That number could change, again, depending on the volume that the store does.
I'm sorry, did you say or mean to say that you anticipate 3 to 4 deliveries per week or per month? I'm not sure I heard. Correct.
It's going to vary. Again, up front, we don't know 100% what it's going to be. Hopefully, it does very well, and we're receiving inventory sure, on a weekly basis. That's the dream.
And again, you will be complying with the CRC regulations relative to transport of cannabis, include in this would be also be handled by your vendor, transportation on our vehicles, cannabis by cannabis business identification card holders and GPS equipped vehicles, cannabis in secure cargo areas and public vans, and the vendors who do that transport will also have delivery logs and the like. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And I believe you also testified that the deliveries will occur at the rear door and will be monitored by your staff when the third party vendor comes to make that delivery.
Yes, so that's what the non-cannabis storage delivery intake room would be. As the delivery came in, it would go immediately in that room, so there's no need for anyone to enter the vault fulfillment room. It would go in there, we would, bring it into our inventory system, and then from there, it would make its way into the vault.
Your staff would would maintain control of the door and monitor the change in hands from the vendor to yourself into the building.
Yes.
Can you explain what you do with cannabis waste?
Hopefully there isn't much waste, because that means it didn't sell. But anything that becomes expired, it's always, all the inventory is always going to be in the locked vault, with the exception of throughout the day there will be product behind the counter during the day, but other than that, all the product will always be in the locked vault. From there, anything that becomes expired that we're not able to throw out in the regular garbage, we will release it to DEP permitted incinerator.
So in other words, you'll comply with the NJ with the New Jersey Cannabis Commission regulations. To one, any usable cannabis would be sent to an incinerator if you can't use it or don't want to use it, and any unusable cannabis can be, your understanding, can be shredded and mixed, rendered unusable, and then disposed of as solid waste.
Yes, sir.
And ordinary solid waste that you would like accumulate, garbage, cardboard boxes, how will that be disposed of?
Yeah, at the rear of the building, which has been noted by the engineer, the town's engineer, that that space needs some TLC. There is adequate space for recycling, and it is mainly cardboard. The products come in cardboard boxes. So we would break them down and put them in the recycling at the back of the building, in the dumpster area.
So you mentioned the review letters that you saw from the board engineer. Can you tell me how many years you've leased the site for, or you've leased the building for?
It is an initial 10-year lease with 2 5-year renewal options. So in essence, a 20-year lease.
And your landlord is JSGR Realty, is that correct?
Yes.
As you've heard throughout this presentation tonight, the lease covers the building and at least 83 common parking spaces.
Correct.
And under that lease, you are obligated to snow plowing, maintenance of the parking lot, landscaping improvements to the area around the building. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your landlord, JSGR, they are, they've permitted you to make the site plan application, and they've also are permitting you to fit out the building and to make, the, exterior improvements, to the extent, the board would like them made regarding curb ramps, handicap ramps, ADA compliant parking spaces, upgrading the, dumpster, trash enclosure. Is that correct?
Yes,
And to put a point on that, you have authorization from your landlord to do those things.
yes, sir. He actually sent us a letter today.
Very good. And you, again, we've submitted your, can you clarify that you have a state conditional license from the Cannabis Regulatory Commission?
Yes, we do. We were licensed in December 5th, 2022.
And we submitted that in connection with the application package. You will, you have not proposed any on-site cannabis consumption areas, correct?
No, we will not have any consumption on site in or on the property.
How it's your understanding that Aunt Mary's operates a dispensary in Flemington in the same zoning district as you, is that correct?
Yes,
And you have the second license granted by, or your company has a second license granted by Flemington Borough, is that correct?
correct.
And to the extent there's a requirement that, or a limitation on only 2 cannabis dispensaries within the HR zone or Flemington Borough, by virtue of there being one other dispensary plus your own, you would comply with the that regulation?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
That is our direction of Mr. Guzman.
Thank you. We'll go to questions from first our board's professionals. Jay, any questions from Mr. Guzman? No questions. No. Karen, you're good? Okay. Board members, remote folks first. Susan, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Guzman. I'm sorry to hear that you and your family are feeling so poorly, and wish you speedy recovery. Question for you in regards to your landlord. Do you recall how many applicants you were competing against for the rights to sign a lease with your landlord?
I'm not sure.
Do you did the landlord speak on your behalf during the application process for the license?
Yes, he did.
Do you recall what he said?
He thought that we would be good tenants and good operators. He happened to has another commercial property in Somerset County that also has a dispensary. So he has experience with a dispensary tenant, and he spoke very highly of us. We were honored to have him come. He said that he thought we were more than capable of operating successfully. And he did say that he did have multiple applicants that wanted that site for a dispensary, and he considered everyone and went with us. And so we were very honored, fortunate that he did choose us over the other interested parties. And from what I understand, the phone didn't stop ringing for folks that were looking to do a dispensary at that site. It really is the perfect site for it. And so I'm not sure if that's what you were referring to with regards to the landlord.
That is what I was referring to. Thank you. It was very unusual for a landlord to come and speak on someone's behalf. So I wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. Do you know how many years that the site has been vacant?
I don't know the answer to that.
No problem.
I'm gonna guess at least 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I figured I'd ask. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Any of the other remote board members with questions? Okay, I'm starting this way. Good. Any members of the public with questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll thank you, Mr. Guzman.
Thank you.
Thank you. What I would like to call Jeffrey Stiles, professional planner.
Good evening. Jeffrey Stiles, S-T-I-L-E-S. Business address is Headquarters Plaza, Morristown.
Thank you, Mr. Stiles. Could you give the board the benefit of your professional and educational experience?
Sure. I hold a bachelor's degree in planning at the University of Denver. I've been licensed as a professional planner in good standings since 1988 in the state of New Jersey. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I've been in consulting my entire professional career, representing municipalities, and testified extensively throughout New Jersey and adjoining states. And have testified in this community, but again, as Ms. Dolan is, it was a number of years ago, so I don't think anybody was on the board at that time.
Any questions from our board professionals, members of the board?
Qualify Mr. Stiles as an expert in the field of planning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stiles, have you had an opportunity to review the application package, all the submittals made in connection therewith, and as well the testimony tonight?
Yes, I have.
You heard testimony that the applicant complies with the conditional use standards for cannabis in this zone.
Yes, I've had the opportunity to review the conditional use standards in the ordinance, and based on conversations and the testimony from my review of the application, I would concur that we do meet all those conditional use standards.
I think we've hit on all of them tonight. If you'd like us to go through each one of them one by one, I think Ms. McManus has laid them out in her letter. We're certainly happy to do that. Mr. Stiles, if you sort of heard enough.
I think for the record to be, you don't need it. You're good.
I'm comfortable with it based on the testimony of the board.
I think it's probably okay.
Okay.
As long as we've done enough on the record,
Okay, so Mr. Stiles, you've heard testimony tonight regarding the signage for the site.
Yes, I have. I've had an opportunity to review the plans and the signage plan for the program itself as well.
Could you sort of give an overview of the signage and then explain whether you believe that the variances are appropriate?
Sure. I'll start with I'll say it's the easiest one, which is the pylon sign out on 202. That sign now is currently blank. It's been there since the initial application was made for pizza years ago. And that sign will be replaced in the same size, not replaced, but just reutilized. The frame, the pole and all will be used, just repainted, and a new sign face put on it that is related to the business at hand. And I think that's been shown in sheet that shows that as well. So from my perspective, that is use of an existing sign that's been there, and the applicant is entitled to use that sign. I think it's standard today. In addition, we had some discussion about signs that were on the roof of the building. Those signs, there were two that were there previously, and they were, I think, 48 square feet each. They're roughly 4 foot high, 12 foot long. Both of those signs were removed, as you heard from council a few weeks ago, in order for the roof to be repainted. And it is the intent of the applicant to reuse those sign structures in the same exact size, same location, just repaint them to match the roof. If you have the opportunity to go by the site, the color of the roof has changed. I would say for the better. It's a little more subdued than it previously was. Without a doubt, you can tell with the Pizza Hut, right? That roof line, the mansard style roof that it is there. And to be honest, I think the signs actually are an improvement to that roof line. Without some break in that roof line, it's kind of a monotonous roof, the way it's situated there. So it's my opinion that because we are using the existing signs, that, roof signs are not permitted by ordinance, but they are a pre-existing sign that's there, and we're using them the same manner, same size, same framage. They've been removed. They were not abandoned by any stretch. They were removed just for maintenance purposes. It was always the intent of the applicant to reuse those signs, and therefore, I think the applicant is still entitled to use those as a pre-existing sign. The third set of signs are required to be signs that we talked about briefly is the window tint. As was indicated, that tinting is required. It is a requirement of law that nobody can see into the building for a variety of reasons. And I did ask a question about the logo on that as well. And I don't personally think that it's a sign. The logo, there's no lettering, there's no wording on it that draws your attention to it. I also think it's from an aesthetic feature, it's very good. It breaks up that monotony of, again, a lot of window space there, which would be very dark. And what that logo does is provide a little lighted area to it. It's not backlit or anything, but it does provide a distinction from just having a blank black window out there. I think from that perspective, it is a betterment than just having that film that is required. Regardless, if it is the board's opinion that those are signs, I would suggest to the board that this is a necessary sign in that we are required to tint the windows and provide that. And I think it is a better option to have the logo on it to, again, provide some aesthetic feature and a break in just a long black set of windows. That really looks a little bit ominous, like why is it just like that? I think it draws a lot of attention just being a black window. And I think this actually is an improvement to it. It provides direction that people can see where they're going to, gives them direction how they get to the site. And I think from that perspective, it is unique that we are required to have this tinting. And I think that what we proposed here is a better alternative from a planning perspective, and allows people to understand where the site is and what those windows really are. And I don't see any downside or from the negative criteria side of things. This is a very unique site in that the building is fairly far removed from the roadway. It's not very visible. As a matter of fact, most people without seeing that pylon sign would never know that building is active in this time of the year because it is far removed. I think this signage overall, the combination of the signs that we're proposing provides a good visibility. This is an auto-oriented type of development, highway retail, and I think you need that acknowledgement and recognition with people driving on either 202 or coming up the access road to the rear that goes into the wall, so that people can see it and make decisions to get to the site, not pass by or make erratic moves because they couldn't see the building. So I think from a positive criteria standpoint, this is a better alternative. It improves the access to the building and the recognition of the building, which is part of the purpose of the municipal land use law, which also are the purposes of your own master plan and zoning ordinances. In fact, it will promote the public good and public welfare by providing that identification and early acknowledgement that the site is there. I don't foresee a lot of people walking to the site. It will be most people driving, maybe somebody that's in the wall, but tend to walk over. But this is, again, an auto-dominated type of use in this location. And I think overall, the town, the borough would be better served with this signage in place. And I don't think it sets any type of precedence, again, because the window signs, as we're quoting them, are related to the tinting that was required by state law. I think it is unique to this site. And we are I guess, the second site that's permitted under ordinance, so we'll probably be the last dispensary. So with that, I think it's a professional opinion that the board is within its rights to grant any variance that they see fit for the signage. And the fact that we are using the existing signs on the roof, I think, is a pre-existing condition that the applicant is entitled to.
Hey, Mr. Stiles, just to circle back, you mentioned the positive criteria. It's your opinion that I heard you say that the The signage, all of them proposed would promote the general welfare, would promote a more desirable visual environment, and they also, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And would you submit that the signage would denote spaces in appropriate locations for various uses such as cannabis retail facilities, and help identify where those uses are located in this town?
Yeah, and the use is permitted in this zone. It's a conditional use. We're complying with that. It is, you know, by its very nature, and the municipality introducing the ordinance and having this as a permit or conditional use does suggest that you acknowledge the use and that it's a good use for the site.
And with regard to the negative criteria, since these signs were all there in one way or another, at the currently or temporarily removed painting, they couldn't possibly impair the intent or the purpose of the master plan or the zoning.
Now, I'm familiar with the master plan. I've read the master plan, looked at it, and don't see any policies from a land use perspective that this would have any substantial impact to, should they be granted.
It's your overall professional opinion that to the extent these variances are needed, they could grant that the applicant meets both positive criteria for grant of these variances under C2 criteria.
That is my professional experience.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Stiles?
I don't know if this is a question necessarily, but to the extent that the board approves any of the window signs, the logos, I would recommend that we get an area that can be incorporated into the resolution. As I guess that's a recommendation to the board, but I also do want to ask, would we provide an estimate of the area of the logo on the signs? I'm not sure if you're the right.
Yeah, I don't have that, but we could provide that to the board. I'm sure if you think it's too big, I'm sure it could be reduced.
The only thing I would say to the board too is if the board's going to find that either, I don't think as much the pylons, that the roof signs would need to have variances granted. Then we just need to know what the requirement is by way of the ordinance and what the proposals are. I've heard it's 48 square feet each, 2 of them on the roof. I'm not exactly sure what the requirements are, but you also heard testimony that they were just removed temporarily in order to paint them just being placed on a different location. So that's something we can specify.
Yeah.
So these signs, I will say, it's not an area limitation that they're subject to. They're simply the ordinance prohibits roof signs. So if the board finds that these are pre-existing roof signs, then they're just simply, it's a non-conforming item that's just simply being replaced, or it's a new being added for 1 month.
So the board will have to make that finding as to whether or not there's removal for purposes of painting and there was an intent to abandon or just temporary removal.
Okay, apply additional testimony on those points we have respect to the signs.
The testimony was that testimony was that they were not banned. Testimonies they were even that they were removed temporarily for the purposes of painting the roof. The maintenance and not banned. That's the testimony that was given by the applicant. So Carrie, you're suggesting that the board needs to, at least in discussion, affirm that if we then, well, other in the absence of that affirmation, we need to provide relief because we don't allow roof signs.
And I do have one other topic.
Please.
Signs that I almost forgot about. And that's the landscape.
Yeah, we weren't gonna.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry.
Everybody wanted to talk about that.
So I wanted to hear some testimony about the landscape plan, the landscape rendering that was submitted, and also I would recommend if the applicant willing to submit a completed landscape plan that provides the typical details that you see.
Sure. So, forgive me, we overlooked bringing that out on testimony of Mr. Guzman. We have to recall him to answer those questions, and we're not to do that. And we're going to submit a revised landscaping plan or a more fulsome landscaping plan.
And I would also suggest that the environmental commission needs to do that. Their next meeting is on Wednesday, December. I'm sorry, the third Monday. in
Well, that
December.
usually happens before the hearing though.
But there wasn't. Well, they didn't look at it, did they? I don't remember them looking at it.
Didn't look at
They
it.
were disappointed.
No, I don't think it was because we didn't have it, we canceled the last meeting.
But I don't think there's, Kara, can you clarify the ordinance?
There isn't a requirement that it be reviewed and provided. They have to have the opportunity to review and make recommendations. Sounds like it was provided. I'm not quite sure what happened after that point.
So you're saying that the landscaping testimony would be Mr. Guzman and not planner?
Correct.
Okay, so let's,
Can I just ask one quick thing?
please,
Is there a window sign area max requirement?
Yes, it's 6 square feet.
Per
For
window?
it's 2 window signs with a total area not to exceed 6 square feet. Which I'm of the opinion that those signs are gonna exceed, first of all, exceeds the 2 window signs, I think it also exceeds the, square foot.
So that's just something else to keep in back from or anything. Since we don't have the actual testimony, that's probably where it's gonna go.
Yeah, the board will have to decide yes or no to the window signs number and comfortable with the signs.
okay, so we can recall Mr. Guzman in a second, but to finish up with the planner's testimony, let's go to the members of the board and we'll get to landscaping stuff in a second. So Angie, please go.
Would it be your testimony that the window signs, in inverted commas, are more of a design element than a windows? Is that kind of what you're pushing it towards?
Yeah, and as I said, it really helps break up the black film that would be on the windows, the tint that would be done. But again, it's a dark film that goes over the window, so it's not transparent. Now it's darker.
Did you mention them, are you having any, often businesses have on the doors? Or are you I didn't hear any testimony about sign for like hours, is that something that's not allowed, or are you planning to have?
I'm sure on
the testimony?
I'm sure on the door there would be a small sign that gives the hours. I don't think that's ever classified as signage.
I want to check that we're adding all this signage and square footage signage together.
I feel like that's part of one of this.
I mean, that's what it adds into the.
We are.
I'm supposed to chart. I was just trying to get the testimony of what you felt.
Generally, it's not considered part of the signage because it's just a requirement that shows what hours the facility's on.
But are you planning to put the same film on the doors as you do on the windows?
If the doors have windows on them, they have to have the film on.
Sorry.
Yeah, you had testified earlier that you were basically just reusing each of the signs that you found on the property that the previous tenant had found necessary to run their business. You testified that you were going to be reusing the pylon sign. Would there be consideration to add a second pylon sign, which is allowed on the back of the property, so you could so customers can find their way in as they navigate through behind Wawa, where there is an existing banner that's been there for several years now, pointing to 25 Burgers.
It was not our intent to put a pylon sign there. And I don't know if the applicant has the ability to do that with the landmark or not.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason on the, what we'll call a roof sign, was to make that, you can sort of see it from there and I give it identification.
Okay, thank you.
No, okay. Other board members with questions for the plan? Okay, so let's, members of the public with questions for the planner. Let's do that. Okay, seeing none, thank you. Thank you. We want to recall Mr. Guzman is going to put some text in the record about landscaping. So he is got his hand up. He can put your hand up. We got you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, welcome back, Mr. Guzman.
thank you.
Your night was over in terms of your speaking role.
Okay,
Um,
as far as the window signs and it having our logo on it, that was just a rendering. If it is an issue, there's a million different things that we could put on there that aren't the logo and branding. So that's a non-issue for us. We don't have to put our logo on the frosting, but we do know that we have to install frosting on all glass to comply with the state. Most dispensaries have their logos in the frosting, but if it's an issue, we don't need to do that at all, and we're perfectly fine with that. So it shouldn't be an issue at all.
Willing to grant you those variances to allow you to put your logo in the frosting in a size that comports with the ordinance. That's something you'd want to do, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And if they would allow us to put, I wasn't sure about the other question about
And
putting,
that's what we wanted to talk to you about landscaping. I think, we've gone over the signs. But what we wanted to do is to answer the questions that Ms. McManus had raised in her review letter relative to the landscaping plan that you submitted.
got it.
No.
I would like to say one last thing about the sign, Larry, with all due respect. I wasn't sure about what one of the panel members there said about installing a sign on the back of the building. I'm sure the landlord wouldn't have a problem with that. My question is, I thought we were only allowed 2 signs on the building, so that would be a third, which I'm not opposed to, but I just want to be clear about that.
Sure. So it's a second pylon sign. The board has said, and I'm not sure I haven't checked this, but the second pylon sign at the rear of the property would be permitted under the ordinance. I have not studied that. To the extent the landlord would allow you to do that, that's something we'd be willing to do in addition to all the 2 roof signs that you've already said you would like to continue to use and the existing pylon sign on the 202.
Correct.
So to the extent the landlord would permit you to put up a pylon sign at the rear of the building near the access point to the common driveway out to Route 31, you would be willing to put one there if you're allowed.
Absolutely.
So now to landscape. So does everybody have the landscape rendering that was submitted in connection with the application? Very good. So Mr. Guzman, we are now referring to the landscape rendering that that your company procured and submitted to the board. Could you very quickly sort of give the board the overview of what type of landscaping you proposed?
So we wanted to work with someone local, and Rutgers Landscape Design, they're pretty local. They have a ton of experience, obviously in landscape design and nurseries. So we consulted with them. We felt happy and comfortable with their services. So this is what we went with, but obviously, we're open to any suggestions or recommendations. Obviously, this hasn't been done yet, so if the board requests something or, asks us to do it in a certain way, we're certainly open to that. The one thing I will say is that we are going to eliminate the tree that's if you're facing the building, it's to the right of it. It's currently there and it's blocking a light pole. In this proposed rendering, there is a new tree being placed there, but we have since decided not to put any tree there and just leave the light pole exposed.
And what would it take to get you to change your mind?
To leave the tree?
Well, preferably to leave the tree, maybe permanent. The borough does have the ordinance regarding cutting live trees that are not sick and removing them.
Okay. We have no problem doing that either. We could possibly relocate that light pole, or figure out the best solution for keeping the tree. I'm not opposed to getting rid of the tree. So.
Please.
You know, frankly, I mean, I'm all about putting in more trees, not removing a tree and then not replacing it. I'd like to see you keep that tree and prune it and then add some additional trees. The state has just put forth a new ordinance that we're going to have to adopt by state law regarding adding more trees. We have a lot of flooding issues in this town, and even though you're not in a flood zone, all trees help the environment. And you know that you're. Personally, I'd like to see you add some more trees, something that's going to be substantial. You know, towards the side to the back, not blocking your front. You know, certainly. And where I come from.
So we're certainly open to that. Absolutely. And any other recommendations, we certainly welcome.
Do you have other direct questions, or should I ask what she's got?
I have no more
Okay.
direct questions.
So Beth, why don't you?
I don't know that I have specific questions in the sense, other than, I had asked for information that people submit an actual, not actually, but a landscape plan as we're used to seeing it from a landscape architect, and that'll indicate planting details, species details, etc. That is necessary for me to be able to conduct the landscape plan. I've heard that the applicant is willing to provide additional trees on the property. I would recommend, and I'd ask the applicant if they're comfortable with the condition that a revised landscape plan, yes, that memorializes what the rendering is and what we've talked about today, but also for the placement of additional trees. If you're comfortable with that, the condition of approval subject to the board planner, my review of that landscape architecture.
We're certainly comfortable with that, and we're as the applicant said, we're comfortable adding additional trees within the areas of the site that's that can accommodate them, or not really developed.
And if you replace or rather retain that tree that is sort of encompassing that light pole at the rear of the property, I think I also heard a statement that you'll replace the light pole elsewhere on the site.
Well, I think I think we'd like to have the option to prune the tree and also keep the light in its current location. If that can be accomplished, that would be the first option.
I don't know that I object to that. I don't know whether that's possible on the property though. I like the idea to best of both worlds, but I'm concerned that either the tree is going to be, it's going to look like one of those trees where a utility pole goes through the middle of it, or it's not going to have effective lighting in that area of the parking lot. So I suspect that the light pole stuff might need to be replaced elsewhere on the property to provide adequate safety.
Understood.
You sort of pointed
A
out
really
too,
beautiful mature tree. It really is. And then we would, kind of go with that would be the condition of amendments to lighting plans to the satisfaction of the board's professional, just to make sure that I know that the CRC has specific lighting requirements, and that you're going to comport with those. We want to make sure that if the existing light stand needs to be moved for the tree, we want that our professionals sign off, however that, to make sure that we're ensuring safety and all the other, the HR zone has fairly broad foot candle regs, and I know that you have to comply with the state as well on this, but we want to just make sure that our professionals have the ability to do that.
Is the board asking for, I just want to be clear for the applicant's benefit, is the board asking for a lighting plan that shows foot candles throughout the property?
I'm not asking for a lighting plan because that's not really a requirement for them. We really can't impose that. I'm saying that if they have to move a light pole as a result of meeting our desire for the tree to stay, that our board's professionals sign off on the relocation of that light pole is what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Just for the record, the board, as part of the completeness review, did temporarily waive lighting and landscaping, deferring to this stage of the discussion as to what you exactly want. And I'm trying to recall, but I believe that Burger King, I thought they upgraded the lights at Burger King, probably when they did that.
Say that again, you thought what?
I thought they upgraded the lights on the Burger King site when they moved in.
They had to, I think there was, we don't want to go too much into testimony here, but yeah, no, I think that that was part of that application. This was intense lighting. I guess the bank had different things, you know, the prior use.
Well, we need to be careful not saying the light bulb, but really what we're looking at is the light source rather than a tree, because it doesn't have to be a light bulb on a correct bulb, it could be something mounted on the building. Would it maybe satisfy the requirements?
Well, they would have to come up with a plan.
Right, I'm just saying, if we specify the light bulb tree, that's the different action.
Yeah, right, I wanna say-
Relocating the light as required for.
Yeah, I wanted it to be more general. I wanted it to be, if the light needed to move because of to satisfy the board's professional for the landscaping elements, that the board's professional also sign off on whatever adjustments needed to make to meeting lighting. That's all.
I mean, if we could actually leave the light and just add something else.
Whatever they got,
That's-
right.
Right.
Okay, so are there other, I'm sorry, we're getting a little out of here. Are there other questions for Mr. Guzman on the landscape matters?
No, appreciate it very much that you're willing to do that.
Okay, so I think we're done with Mr. Guzman on that. Are there other? I'm sorry, Susan, you have a hand up. I just saw that. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to confirm that if the light pole and or tree gets moved, that safety is taken into account, because, you know, in this particular situation, safety is also a factor. So I'm certainly not opposed to moving or replacing a tree at a different location if it's determined by the professionals that it's in an interest of safety, that it's more important for the light pole to stay and be clear for safety reasons than saving the tree or moving the tree or replacing the tree somewhere else. I was also hoping that the revised landscape plan would, in consideration by the fact that they're over parked, that we could perhaps, as the mayor mentioned, in anticipation of the ordinances being replaced and us also requiring from several other more recent applicants that we add some additional landscaping trees in and around the parking, even if that means removing a parking space or two to accommodate some heat island effects. And I certainly would defer to the professionals as to how many and where those would be located.
So let's put this in the form of a question. Is that something the applicant is willing to consider?
Exactly. Thank you for the clarification to making it into a question, Jeff.
We're willing to consider it, but I'm not sure that the proposal to eliminate parking takes into account that tendencies change and the site could change, and at some point change, or this dispensary could change, or the Burger King could change, and then all of a sudden you have less parking on the site than was previously envisioned for the site in this parking setup. As you heard from Ms. Dolan, impacts it's a parking fence for the entire site. It impacts what was on the Burger King, and it also impacts what we've done at Burlington. So
You know, a person like condo that gives it so many dedicated to the site, or
I believe
there.
it's all common parking. It's all common parking. So,
On that point, I think there are, well, there might just be one, but there might be some opportunities to add trees to existing striped areas that would not result in loss of a parking space. So it might be a.
All right, so, no more direct testimony.
no more direct.
Okay, so, before we let you make any closing statement, we always ask if members of the public wish to make a statement. If there's any members of the public who wish to speak, for 3 minutes. Seeing none, do you have anything in closing?
We appreciate the board's time here tonight. I'd like to keep the summation short because recognizing you're all volunteers with the exception of these fine folks sitting next to me. And I don't want to keep you here any longer than you need to. We would request that the board grant the minor site plan approval, grant the conditional use approval, and grant the signage variances that we requested. We submit that we've given a very fulsome testimony on all the areas that we touched upon: engineering, architecture, operations, and planning, and that all the approvals, including the variances, can be granted on the record that we've seen here tonight. And thank the board for its courtesies and reviewing this application relatively quickly and doing the completeness review and getting us through that and getting into a hearing and having this come in before the new year. So with all that said, and on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Guzman and his family, we request that the board grant the approvals that we've requested here tonight.
Thank you. So I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Brooke,
Yes.
Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Councilwoman Engelhardt,
Sorry, yes.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Mr. Levitt,
Yes.
Ms. Gibson, Ms. Weitzman,
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Okay, so we're up for board discussion and anything from our professionals that you want to.
Did you want to take a break?
Well, we usually do our break around 9. Since 3 of you asked, I think we should take our break. I was thinking maybe to go straight through, but no, it's okay. Let's take our short break now, and then we'll come back for board discussion. 5 minutes. All right. So we are coming back to order. It is 9:08. It was more than 5. It never be 5. It's 9:08. Ellen, can you please recall the roll?
Mayor Carroll, here. Councilwoman Engelhardt,
Here.
Mr. Campion,
Here.
Mr. Dawson,
Here.
Mr. Levitt,
Here.
Mr. Cook,
Here.
Ms. Gibson, here, Ms. Weitzman,
Here.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Semino,
Here.
Mr. Echo. Mr. Carroll.
Here.
Here. Ms. Kaczynski, here, Ms. McManus, here, Mr. Clerico.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here. All right, thank you. So we're back in, we're up to board discussion. Before we get into board members, maybe we can kind of summarize, Beth, if you could, where things at. If there's any highlights you want to point out from your review letter.
I think the highlights are the landscape testimony that we just most recently heard about submitting updated landscape plans and a discussion regarding formalizing the landscape rendering, adding additional trees on the property. I think the board needs to weigh in on whether or not you want to simply look for additional trees within existing green areas on the property, whether or not you want to look for places for additional trees in areas that don't contain parking spaces, for which I think there's only one baseline area program, maybe 2.
Excuse me, Beth, can you speak into the mic? It's really hard to hear you and Kara when you talk.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah. So what I said was, the first open issues landscape plan, the board needs to weigh in on whether or not it wants to add additional trees to green areas, whether it wants to add additional trees to pavement areas that are not parking spaces, for which I want to note there's very limited opportunity to do so, and or whether or not the board wants to seek to have some number of parking spaces converted to landscape areas when heard from the applicant that that may pose a challenge with their landlord. The other issues I think the board needs to consider is regarding, we also heard about the lighting. The applicant has agreed to replace the light generally, whether that means an additional light pole or other form of lighting. I don't know if there's any additional discussion, but the board will certainly have its way with that. And then the last topic are the signage. We have 3 categories of signs that are proposed. First is the freestanding sign. That is, it's an existing sign that's just simply getting refaced. There was some commentary that perhaps an additional freestanding sign should be considered by the applicant, considered by the board to provide additional visibility. We have the roof signs. I had identified those as a variance in my report, not having the background if they've just been taken down for maintenance. Given the testimony, I'm comfortable that those 2 signs are non-conforming, but they are not a new variance. And then the last aspect of signage are the window signs. There's a limitation in the ordinance for 2 window signs that together don't exceed 6 square feet. I believe that the logos proposed on the window tinting, I think there are 4 windows on 3 sides of the building, each of which have this logo. I don't have a size for the logo, but I suspect it's maybe closer to 6 square feet per logo rather than all of them. So in that respect, I think the board should weigh in on, are you comfortable with the window signs generally, yes or no? If so, are you comfortable with window sign on each window pane, not just the large window area on each side of the building? And or whether or not the board would like to impose a smaller number of logos along those facades.
Can I ask a question? Is it because it's a logo, it's considered a sign, or because it's something on the window? So if they put up a cannabis leaf, is that a sign? If they put up a bird, is it a sign?
Yeah, it really.
So it can't just be anything. It's like, I know that there was a comment made by Mr. Guzman that it doesn't have to be the logo. He has lots of things he can put up, but he needs to understand that no matter what he puts up is a sign.
I think that I have to review the boroughs, I can look at quickly, the definition of sign. I think there's, at some point, it turns into a piece of art that would be on the window, but the more related it is to the business, the higher likelihood that it's gonna qualify as a sign if they put. I'm gonna
But if you put art in there, now he has to go to the public arts committee.
Yes,
So
yes, so I would recommend that the board consider the logos as proposed, rather than suggesting putting a cannabis leaf or something, you know, well, yeah, but put an alternative picture, you know. The point is to provide some interest to the building, interest to the windows, so it's not just these tinted windows.
So coming away from pictures, stripe patterns or things, are those like where is this limit on it?
I think it looks like a, you know, assuming it met the CRC requirements, if there's just a stripe everything across the windows, I don't think that's gonna be a sign. I think that might provide the visual interest that the applicant's looking for, but the board should consider whether or not that's an aesthetic improvement.
It's hard to say, because when we look at signs from an ordinance perspective, if you can remember, I mean, it's not precedence, but if you can remember, we had an old Rite Aid had 1 hour photo all the way over here, and it had drive-through all the way over there. And if you took and measured the size of all of that, it was ginormous. And we said that's not the intent. The intent of the ordinance was not to plaster the windows. So I beg to differ. If you said, oh, I'm going to put up a mural of this, that whole window then becomes a sign. So we tend to look and say, listen, the sign's blacked out, but we really don't have an ordinance against it. blacking out, you have to.
Well, no, but we do have ordinances that say a certain percentage.
No
of-
more than 10% of paper signage, like sales, promos,
Right.
blah, 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 again, to plaster the window.
But we were trying to keep the storefront to be
Correct.
clean and neat, and yes,
And
the
visible.
necessity of some of those things to be able to see in and out of the storefront, right? And certainly retailers are not, we were trying to kind of have a certain aesthetic here. But that's different than, look, the alternative here is that they take out all the windows, they put up some sort of brick facade, right? And they would fully comply with the cannabis regulations, and we would complain that it was an ugly building, right? So this is a, you know, it is, if we stop thinking that, I know, we think about signs, whatever, but if we stop thinking of them as windows, but they are windows, but if we stop thinking of it as a window, they're still letting light through, but but the definition of window on a storefront is to see into the store in some way.
Right.
By reg, they're not allowed to be able to see into the store. So whether or not it's, so I mean, it may require a variance relief, it may require some discussion, but I think in as we're considering this, I am more comfortable with, you know, let them put the one logo on each of the window panes, let them just cover, because they have to do this by reg. Because then at some point, if the tendency changes, then we haven't gotten rid of the windows, they can just peel it off.
But to your point, I agree with you in principle. Personally, I think that what they're proposing looks nice.
Yeah.
However, the precedent is then set for other shops. If we allow all of the windows to be covered, one is to stop somebody on Main Street saying you allowed it there.
Right.
Why can't I also have a variance?
So I-
Hold on.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we're clear here. Are we talking about whether a sign is the blacking out of the entire window or just the logo on it?
The logo
It's
on it.
okay, so we're talking about.
I'm not saying they have to do that by reg,
Okay.
but it's the addition of the logo onto that situation that
Okay.
they're
So it's not
creating.
blinking out the window, that's.
I
that would
think
be-
what they're, sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
But it's not the window tinting that is the precedent,
No.
it's just the logo itself.
The logo.
Okay.
Well, what it is though, but to Karen's point, I thought Karen made an earlier point saying, I think the quote was, what's stopping other business owners from doing the same thing? Well, we don't set precedents on any of the, decisions that we make, but, because we typically would not allow a storefront owner to black out their windows.
This is a state reg, which takes precedence over us, right? So we could easily say, there is a state reg in the resolution that requires this.
Right.
And we acknowledge that they are, you know, the larger government, I
This
can't
is-
say the state's.
And part of the
Superseded.
justification for the logo on each window, should the board decide to do that, would be to break up this state required
Right.
tinting of the window.
But I don't personally want to violate our ordinance over that. I have no problem allowing them to have a small logo on 4 windows or 3 windows or whatever they want to do, as long as it meets the square footage of our ordinance, because it's not a necessity. This is an hardship.
It will not meet the square footage of the ordinance. If the board is comfortable with the logos, it's limited to 2 signs at just 6 square feet. So that might mean 1 logo. Well, it's 1 logo total, would maybe
All
1.5, you know, because it's just 2 permitted at 6 square feet total. So
Yeah,
I
our
don't-
ordinances were not written for a building of this size.
No,
on the
this is
highway.
a very unique building.
Yes, when we looked at this, just from a background perspective, we thought of a 20-foot wide store and said, listen, 6 square feet, I'm gonna hold up approximately 6 square feet. You know, that was the kombucha bar, its size.
And to clarify, too, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the testimony was geared towards a C2, not a C1.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's how the board should. be-
Susan's got her hand up and I want to let her jump in.
I just wanted to agree with Todd and Jeff. I think that we need to take scale into account as far as the size of the building and the logo. And I wanted to just make a statement that I definitely would prefer graphics over words on any type of window, whether it's blacked out or not. That's regulated by the state. But look, somebody asked me once, why do you always pass variances? And I think the reason why a variance is passed is because you're taking the existing conditions into account, the size, the proportions, the location. This particular site is set back quite a bit, so that might also be a small factor as well, that it's on a highway and not downtown. So for all those reasons, I'm not opposed to the size of the logo on the windows. I am, I rather see a nice graphic, which I believe this applicant has presented a tasteful graphic as opposed to words, no matter what the size is. I think it needs to be proportionate with the size of the windows.
It sounds like we've got some, recognizing the state regs that require the blacking out, recognizing that our ordinance was not really intended for multiple windows of this size. Do we have testimony about the size of the logo per pane? We don't have testimony.
No, but we could, looking at the scale, to Susan's point, you could say, and to take Marcia's idea of what's in our ordinance,
Yeah,
the
that's where
6
I'm
square feet. 6 square feet is the kombucha bar circle, right? That's 6 square feet. Just so for the locals to understand that size. And and I think from a scale perspective, that being on each window is somewhat consistent with what the intent was. Fully knowing that there are 4-foot by 12-foot signs on the roof, they could be twice that size on the highway. 100 square feet on the highway. We've never dealt with anything like that at this point. So we only have Staples. There's not many buildings.
So in this variance, we could consider windows extra and allow each one with the understanding that it's only because we've got the one out as well. Really tie it up in a bow in that way, but it wouldn't affect any other business.
So this is where I was going. I was going to say that we say that the condition that seems like where the board is going is that no more than 6 square foot per window, logo per window pane kind of is a variance. It is relief from the ordinance, but it is, I don't know, it feels like somewhat consistent and reasonable with what we've done in other places. And I think that would probably capture where we're going, and allowing them to use their preferred graphic, which I think is always better if we can, and kind of be, there has to be relief granted here, I think, after that, and that's gonna have to be what it is.
And the tough point, the location of the building makes a big difference. And to Susan's point, that it's away, it's not on a road ground. They need some visibility of some level of branding.
Yeah. So that's the windows. The second question that I think we need to just have some discussion on for the record is about the roof signs, which are not permitted. And the testimony of the applicant was that they were not abandoned, but they were removed for maintenance. You have to raise the question, and others can jump in here, of the fact that our board's planner didn't know that they were down for maintenance is a problem. Like it's a problem that our board's professional assumed that they had been abandoned because there hadn't been enough communication from the applicant to say, we're taking these down, we're not abandoning the sign, we are just taking it down so we can paint the roof. And it's a concern. We want to make sure that there's good communication, to the point where she wrote in her review letter that she assumed that it needed a variance because if you perceived like it was abandoned, we're asking questions, how long they've been down, things like that. So I just, it's a concern, because there's been work done on this site ahead of this application that should have been coordinated with the site plan application, so that we were aware of everything that was going on. And I don't know what work was done by the applicant. I don't know what work was done by the landlord. I mean, I don't have any specific information there, but like, it's a concern.
I do, and it is a concern, because it's not how this town rolls. So, going forward in the future, it goes right with this thing about, you know, we were gonna take down the tree and replace it, but now we're just gonna take it down. It's not how the town rolls. You don't do work on buildings. If you have an application into the planning board, you wait until you have your application through the planning board. We've had issues with other applicants who are not local or have not necessarily used local talent to represent them. Where they've gotten demolition permits, they've removed trees, they've done other things. It's not how we do things in this town, so respectfully, we expect you to wait till you have your permits, till you have your application through, till our professionals look at your site plan and say, okay, don't go taking down signs, don't go do whatever, because you put yourself in jeopardy of losing that sign. You really have, you put yourself in jeopardy, because of, you know, our planner's comments, because nobody knew what was going on, because there was work done inside the building without permits. So please go at our speed. Government works, just works slowly.
So I think we have testimony that it was not an abandonment, but absent what we have on the record here, we would have needed to grant a variance for those roof signs. So I don't know if other folks want to weigh in on that particular issue. We want to kind of work collaboratively here.
I don't have a problem with the signs, and I totally agree with your planner that it breaks up an otherwise bizarrely formed roof line. So, you know, I really don't. I don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem with everybody jumping guns. So.
And the third sign is the property allows for, because of its configuration and because it abuts two major highways, they can have a second sign. But when I say they, now I'm looking at the Burger King could also have that sign in the back. And I'm talking about when you drive past Wawa, there's not a pylon sign.
I think that suggestion of that goes tie into the landlord issue. The landlord doesn't want a sign there for all of those businesses who we don't count on to put one there. If they apply for one, we could consider it, but I don't see why we need to.
But I guess
What we could say in here, we could say as not so much a condition, but just a comment in the resolution. It's noted by the board that the applicant is entitled to a second sign.
A second sign, doesn't need to be a pylon, it could be a monument sign, a freestanding sign.
And if they want that, they would have to go before the sign review committee.
Yeah, sign review committee.
I think Barbara's point supports as well a general feel about the other signage, that if you take all of those things into account, what they could have, it makes it an easy for that. But I did want to come back to the point of the signs on the roof.
Yeah.
I too think they're a good use of the space, because the way the building is, an ordinary sign that would normally be above the storefront, above the window, they can't do that. If they don't put it there, they could effectively put it almost by the gutter and have a sign that stands up off the roof, frankly, it would work.
Yeah.
So I think I understand the concerns about jumping the gun. I absolutely agree with that. But the signs that they're proposing to maintain long term seem reasonable.
Yeah, because the design of the roof, it's a roof and not a facade. Because really, it's a roof in a technical sense, but visually it acts as a facade. And so if there was a facade, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So we understand. Yeah. All right.
It's a Pizza Hut roof. It screams Pizza Hut.
So that was the sign question, and then the landscaping question. I want to just make sure that we have some discussion here. We definitely want to see trees, and I think that the one question, Beth, I don't know if you can eyeball this or not. And again, this may be beyond the scope of what's here. And does the existing parking lot meet our 1 in 10 parking lot requirements?
I do not believe.
It's an existing non-conforming, I understand that, and we're not able to make them fix it. But if we're looking, it looks like there are rows of 15 or more spots, which would not conform. current ordinance.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I haven't done that compliance check, but I don't think they've got the trees.
So I would just, the one thing that I would say is if there is a way to utilize, again, not imposing that condition and that math, because we really can't impose exactly that formula, but the idea of figuring out, is there a way to break up some of that macadam in a way that is in the spirit of our parking lot ordinances, right? That to break it up with planting on. I'm not saying they're gonna be able to do that all the way, but there are existing trees, on some spaces, looking at the overhead, and there are, so there might be some ways to do this, especially if kind of the, corner of the lot, again, understanding that it's 3 tenants and one, it's a weird kind of, we don't want to do anything to impede circulation.
This space in the current islands that now have trees without asking them to break up the parking lot.
I think there is, yeah, I think there's some space in the existing landscape areas, grass areas that can host another tree. I think that there is a striped area of their parking lot that may be able to host another tree if it were converted to a landscape area. And there are certainly a couple areas that.
What about, I thought they mentioned there were 3 parking spaces that were Raritan Township. Is it possible to make those where they weren't going to use those 3 and have them as,
We're not, no.
No, we can't dig up that.
Just, no. There's a legal question about Raritan Township that we have to get into, but we'll get there in a sec.
Get this. I would just
See what the easy things first.
I would just ask that the board, similar to what we dealt with the previous resolution that was adopted this evening. I would just ask that we craft some specific language for what extent the board wants additional trees, if there's a number or a policy that needs to be addressed.
What about this? A complete plan with landscaping details and species prepared to the satisfaction of the board's professionals. That includes keeping the tree by the light pole and includes additional trees with the focus on, and I don't know if you want to put a number, at least additional X trees with a focus on greater compliance with the parking lot. So, because one of the other things I'm concerned with is we're dealing with a tenant here.
Yep.
Not an owner. So for us to impose a requirement to break up impervious coverage, put in new islands.
I know that's
the issue I have. So if we could certainly say additional trees, there are spaces in existing islands to put additional trees. That can be done, but the impervious coverage, while it sounds like the landlord's on board.
10-year lease with 2 5-year options.
I agree, logic, I'm looking at it from, a legal perspective, and the landlord, again, since they've been so compliant and willing to help, it probably wouldn't be an issue. So.
Why don't we want to maximize the trees? If we focus on current areas available, find a way to maximize in the discussion with the plan.
It's a good idea, the places that's confined that already have grass on them.
With a view
nothing
to
there.
absolutely maximizing based on a landscape designer's interpretation of that, you know what I mean?
And they don't have to be sugar maples that are gonna be 80 feet tall in 20 years. They could be, reasonable other New Jersey trees that don't get.
We have a shade tree commission and approved species list. We've got good drought resistant native species that are.
Nothing's gonna continue to break up their.
To match that plan.
Like I said, one more thing for the resolution is regarding sewer water getting back. They're not gonna be using it, it's gonna be dormant, and we're gonna take it, we're not gonna use it, but I think we have, somebody needs to look into that formula on, the cannabis retail business that's got 25 cars per hour versus the fast food restaurant with 190 an hour.
I have in here as a condition to research the issue as to whether any excess capacity should be restored back.
And it's an issue because this borough has the last sewer capacity available in Check County, so it's precious.
The items on our report is that initially the board always opposes it, to obtain approval from the water and sewer department. And they typically do that kind of a calculation typically.
Yes.
But
But they didn't have to do a whole Form A before this. They didn't have to do a form, they didn't have to do the submission to water and sewer yet before they came here. You know, obviously, some major site plans tend to have that requirement as as a checklist item, which certainly we would want water and sewer to weigh in on.
Well, I raised the issue only because of the existing utilities on the site, and that there's water lines that were gonna be extended before, and I deferred to the water and sewer department. It's a sewer line that runs through the property, that's not in the defined easement, suggesting they should define it. And now's the time to correct a lot of the ills that occurred over the centuries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I like that. I do too.
All right. Other discussion on stuff we've. All right, so Kara, get us into the fuzzy area of.
You want to do the other
jurisdiction.
conditions I had
Please
first?
do
to
that
make sure?
first. And then-
Right, so let's do that first. So I had obviously compliance with the engineering, traffic engineering and planning letters. A third handicap space shall be installed if necessary. A note on the plan that all parking for the facility shall be in the borough and install appropriate signage as deemed necessary by the board. Professionals. I need some help with this condition. I know the applicant and I believe Betsy testified. There was a comment, connections to Wawa will be restored. Can you help me with exactly how to phrase that a little bit?
It was just more about
Conditions.
it was more of the parking lot and connectivity because the fences that are up there.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think that's a real, that's a really.
I
Okay.
think we need to make sure that the pedestrian movement between those two sites is safe as well. You know, if there is any connection, if there was any pedestrian access between like Wawa and Burlington Coat Factory parking lot, we just want to make sure that if there are people that are walking in that area, that they're safe.
Need to move, but we don't.
You can go get your Doritos after stopping as well.
I didn't say it, you guys did.
Okay, but we brought that up, I believe, when
We did.
process, and the chief was not that concerned.
We did, but we did also say that, you know, we were concerned that we wanted to make sure that it was accessible by foot to the borough, because there are a lot of people that depend on, especially the medical side of cannabis, that may not be able to access these buildings, these services by car. So we wanted to make sure that the location was accessible by foot as well as cars. And although this is a highway space, I think that was important to the cannabis committee to make sure that it was accessible by foot. So I just want to make sure that we're kind of keeping that in mind when we're doing the resolution.
Again, just for the record, according to the plans they submitted, there is a sidewalk along the part of this property, which looks like a right of way that comes in from 31.
Yes.
There is a sidewalk along 202. There are currently no internal connecting sidewalks. It's a sidewalk in front of this pad. There's sidewalks in front of the Burger King pad, but there's no interconnectivity pedestrian. I mean, once you get into the site, you walk in the parking lot.
Right.
If you're looking for something else, you need to be a little bit.
I don't think we're looking to propose anything else because this is not, it's not the nature of the application. Okay, so what other conditions? Kara?
Okay, I have, obviously compliance with, the Recreational Cannabis Act and all the regulations promulgated by the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, et cetera, is outlined in the board plan and report. All of the other conditions of the conditional use must continually be complied with. Otherwise, this becomes a non-permitted use, so I'd like to include that in here as an ongoing condition throughout the time period of tenancy.
Ian, your license is only for medicinal at this point. Right, your license is always a medicinal, that's not right?
No, we have a conditional license for it.
You applied to the borough one? The borough license is only for this as far as I know.
Not mine.
I thought it was pending on the application.
Depending on what.
The recreational license?
That's not, it's not.
Well, we should talk about that afterwards, not with the board, because each license had an application cost and an application fee. You only apply for one.
Yeah,
Right, so we can talk about it after.
Yeah, that's-
That's what I said, we can talk about it after.
There was testimony that Flemington will have access to the security feed along with the state. Flemington will also have a key fob and a Knox box will be provided. This is something that some of the other towns have required. To be honest, I think it's superfluous, but if it's something you want for the file and as a condition, verification from the borough that there are only, this is one of the only 2 licenses issued within the borough. Again, some towns would have a limit, they want something in the file from the council, from just
So this-
indicating. Again, I personally think it's superfluous, but.
Nope, the ordinance allows for up to 4 licenses at 2 locations. So Aunt Mary's at this point has a license for medicinal and a license for recreation.
Okay.
They have paid for both of those license applications.
Okay.
Which are separate. As far as I know, this site is being awarded as the second site, but I think only 1 license for medicinal has been awarded.
It was on a license basis and a site basis.
Correct.
Okay, so then I would say not licensed with the second site. Again, I think that there's clearly been testimony, clearly the, Mayor and Susan can confirm that that's something.
Yeah,
that
no,
other
we need
boards-
I don't think we need it, I don't think we need it,
I don't
but.
think so.
all right, it's
But
fine.
again, I'm just throwing it out there because I've seen it on some of my private applications. All right, we have to get into the landscaping. I kind of said this before, complete landscaping plan with landscaping details and species prepared to the satisfaction of board professionals. The applicant is going to keep the tree by the light pole and include additional trees with a focus on greater compliance with parking island requirements. With regard to lighting, relocate the light of the tree as either a pole or a building mounted light in a manner to ensure safety and proper lighting to satisfaction for professionals.
We just let it, which is if necessary.
Okay.
Relocate if necessary.
If necessary, yep. Signage, the existing pylon sign will be replaced. The existing roof signs will be replaced. Specifically, we're talking about 2 at 48 square feet each. Any excess of that would have to come back before the board. So we're just replacing what was there, and the board has deemed those not to be abandoned. It does not appear based upon the testimony of the applicant and its witnesses that there was any intent to abandon those signs. And then window signs. So the ordinance permits 2 window signs with a total of 6 square feet. What is the board's pleasure with regard to those?
I would say, given the circumstances, that we say each window can have a sign logo, sign/logo, of no more than 6 square feet.
I don't think you should say sign.
I think you should say logo based on the same site. We specifically wanted to avoid, we just wanted a logo, didn't we? So when it is a logo based sign.
This is consistent with
That makes, is that the wording?
So it's consistent with the. There it is.
Consistent with the rendering.
Yeah. Consistent with the testimony renderings,
Well, thank you.
6 square foot per window pane of the logo.
Okay.
As, yeah.
Tying that into state reg.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
State requirements for, and what are we calling that, glazing of windows?
It's frosting and the tinting.
Film. It's a film,
Film.
Privacy.
screening film, privacy film, something like
Yeah,
that.
okay. Yep, okay. And then I'll make a notation that the applicant, the the ordinance does permit a second freestanding sign if the applicant seeks that they must go to the sign review committee for approval.
We get, well, it's, it needs to be in there, I mean, if they have it.
They have, they
They
know.
have it, then, so don't, it just needs to be.
All right, so those are the conditions that we discussed and need to impose. The issue with Raritan Township. Council and I have discussed this. We disagree on applicability. We certainly can put his discussion and his arguments before the board. Based upon case law specifically, we've got the case of Brown versus Zoning Board of Adjustment. We've got the Siokin versus Franklin Lakes Planning Board case. And also based upon the definition of lot in the municipal land use law. What we're dealing with here is one meets and bounds lot parcel that is separated by a boundary line between the borough of Flemington and the township of Brown. As a result of that, technically, according to law, they are required to get approval from both towns. This is a very unique situation. Because of the cannabis use itself, because of the fact that we have a building and majority of the parking, in this case, all the parking based on the condition that's only going to be located in the borough. It certainly makes sense for the township not to have any interest in reviewing this application, but I would have to tell the board to include a condition that says that the Raritan Township either approval, letter of no interest, or letter of non-applicability must be provided as a condition. We can also indicate that pursuant to statute, it's 40A:13-19 and 20. The borough also has the authority to adopt a resolution granting its land use powers to this board with regard to the application. There's a couple different ways that they can do this. This board knows we've done that before with regard to other parcels that are split between the two municipalities when all of the development is in Raritan Township. But we have to include that here. And the reality of this is, even if we didn't include that as a condition, that's what the law says. So someone from Raritan Township could come and bring that up as an issue, and we don't have the ability to say that they don't have the right.
Okay, so let me,
But I've tried to frame it as broadly as possible to give them that opportunity.
so. The easy way to ask this question is, we're talking about a use that is prohibited in Raritan Township. Raritan Township did not opt in to cannabis. We're not talking about, there is no way that this applicant could seek variance relief because of height or use or whatever. This is a use that is not permitted for it anywhere in Raritan Township. And it's on the applicant, not on us, right? I was making sure that so if we were to grant approvals here, and I would hope that there'd be a letter of no interest and we would be done with it, but the township could invoke its authority and throw the whole thing out. Because it's not a permitted use in Raritan Township.
Without the provision of a use tax, which there's even questions as to whether or not that's allowed.
But Kara, wouldn't I'm sure that happen, couldn't the landlord in that case just subdivide his property into three parcels? Two of which are completely in Flemington Borough.
Would likely need subdivision approval from both towns. And I don't know, looking at the survey, if it would create a non-conforming parcel. I mean, yes, the quick answer to your question is yes, that's an option. Whether it's a better option or a feasible option, how much relief would be necessary, that I can't.
But it doesn't matter on our end, right?
No. And again, that's kind of why I want to point out that even if we don't include that condition, the law is the law. So there's really, we have as a general condition compliance with any and all other approvals that may be required. So, even without that specific one, but I do feel it's important for us to put that in there again, to assist both the board and the applicant that there are other options here for what the township can do.
The lot owned by the landlord covers several buildings and it's an oak, we've already heard the parking is totally shared. And this parcel, the line that where we're including 3 spaces are allotted to this, so that line then, does that have, what weight does that have compared to the whole shared parking situation? Is it, because it's not like we're saying that is like the corner of the building, it's 3 parking spaces, but is that officially designated that lot? That makes sense, you know what I'm saying?
I think I know what you're saying. I'll make this answer. The applicant has testified that they are willing to ensure that those spaces somehow, some way, by signage or otherwise, are not associated with the facility.
Right.
But this has nothing to do with the use of the area that's in the town. Bottom line is the lot itself is in both towns, so both towns have jurisdiction over the areas in their town. Now, what the township may turn around and say is, we don't care, there's not gonna be any use, you know, by the cannabis facility. And potentially they may say, the fact that we prohibit it doesn't even matter. I don't know what they're gonna say.
Yeah.
And nor do I want to opine as to what they're gonna say, nor does it matter what they're gonna say. The point is, they have to have a say.
Because it's all shared parking, does every single lot in that shared parking space?
Yeah, it's just a lot of.
Mr. Chairman, if I may sort of explain the applicant's position on this.
Yeah, you could.
So our position is Flemington Borough approved this site plan long ago and approved this site plan many times. When the site was initially developed, I believe in 1994 or 1993, the owner at the time obtained site plan approval from Raritan and Flemington. Raritan has had its opportunity to approve the site plan. This is akin, what Bless Wellness wants to do is akin to a change in tenant. We're simply moving in and occupying this existing building. Raritan's had its chance to approve the site plan. It did. Bless Wellness is taking no improvements to the site, simply occupying the building and doing an interior fit out. We submit there's no improvements or no portion of the use is going to be in Raritan Township. And therefore, we do not need to go to Raritan Township for their permission to use the building in Flemington. And we submit there's no reason to include any condition to that effect as well for all of those reasons. And we also point out that the Burger King approval in 2016 didn't contain a condition that Raritan Township had to sign off on the use.
Kara, if we allowed a use in there that Raritan Township didn't approve, like Raritan Township in that zone, right? The zone that whatever that they have as their zone.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say they don't allow adult bookstores in that zone, and then we allow an adult bookstore in that facility. Would it be the same?
Absolutely. Anything, it could be a restaurant if they zone it residential. The cases that I cited specifically deal with split properties in 2 municipalities,
So
one of which
nothing to
allowed
do with
it, the other which didn't.
So it has nothing to do with the fact that,
No.
that what we've made legal in Flemington is illegal in Raritan.
Well, it is, but it has nothing to do with the fact that we're talking about the cannabis use.
But what, okay, so how do you respond to, the attorney's assertion that this isn't about a site plan, they weighed in on the site plan 40 years ago?
Then I would say that that's their argument to Raritan Township, that they don't need to have it be on.
But they're arguing that we shouldn't impose a condition on the resolution.
There's an application before this board with regard to that problem. I would be remiss not telling you that you need to include a condition with regard to that. And if Raritan Township feels that they don't have any input, then that's exactly what they can say. And again, Sure.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Tom?
It's in order to protect the town. Susan, you can hand up, I apologize, I'm sorry.
So even if it's a tenancy.
I just wanted to I'm sorry.
But it's a change of the new tenant is in business and something to leave.
Well, it's an application. They're here on an application. If it was a change in tenancy, I'd have to take a look at that. If it was just a change in tenancy application, but that's not what we have here.
Did we make 25 burgers though?
I wasn't here, I don't know.
I don't think so, and I know Burger King definitely. Like, I don't think, we didn't put it in for Burger King. Burger King turned a bank into a fast food place. Both were permitted uses within the zone. It wasn't a use thing. It was, it was a major site plan. We had the drive-through window, we had circulation elements, we had parking questions, signage, packages, the whole kit and caboodle. It was a full site plan. But I don't think we imposed this condition on, you're saying that the imposition of the condition regardless, Raritan could have weighed in because of the Burger King application.
I mean, think about the times where I've written letters on behalf of this board that says we've reviewed the application for the property located in both towns and we have no comments and we don't feel the need for the board to come for the applicant to come for us. We've done that.
But there's a difference to me, there's a difference between new development, like if the owner of the lot wanted to put in a fourth out parcel versus an existing building and structure that Raritan Township weighed in on, and it's just a change of use. Can you comment on that?
All I can say is there's an application before this board for a piece of property located in two towns. And that's what the law says. Now, whether or not the township has a prior site plan approval, I mean, I think that's only exacerbated by the fact that the change in uses is something that's not permitted in the other town that has jurisdiction over the parcel.
Well, we had to send out notices, right? For this.
Yes.
So did Raritan Township get a notice?
Yes, Raritan, the clerk of Raritan Township got a notice of this hearing as to the town and all property owners within 200 feet of this site in both Raritan and London.
Sorry, Susan has had her hand up. I want to let you jump in. I apologize.
Yes, we've done this so many times with Raritan Township and I expect them to be good neighbors and this is the amount of property that understanding that it's a use that's not permitted in their town, but the use is literally 2.5 parking spaces. It's a little tiny corner that's not being touched and the use isn't going to be utilized in that part of the property. I suspect, being good neighbors, and frankly, I expect, being good neighbors, that they'll send a letter of no interest, just like they've done many other times. I respect the fact that they do not allow this use in their township, but I also expect them to be good neighbors. And but I do think that we need to follow the law and require them to at least get that letter of no interest from the township. Because if we start if we don't put it in our resolution, then the next time another site where it overlaps, which we know there are many in this town, that Raritan could do the same thing to us. So I expect them to be a good neighbor, and I would expect us to do the same in the future for us.
Does a non-response to the notification carry the same weight as a letter of no intent?
That's a very, very good question. However, I understand. It's a very good question.
That we have it because they haven't, or is that not safe to assume and they still have the right to do it even if they didn't respond to their notice?
I would say it's over and above that because the law requires that there be that there be an action. Okay, but we're not talking about a 200-foot notice to a property owner that if they don't show up here, we assume that they don't have any objection, or positive things to say about it. And I think that's only furthered by the statutes that again specifically allow for, which very well may happen in this instance, the commissioners or council, I forget which one it is, of the township, committee members, to adopt a resolution saying that for purposes of this, they're, ceding their land use jurisdiction to the borough.
So let me ask you this way, should we have imposed this condition on the Burger King?
Assuming that all circumstances were the same,
Yeah,
yes.
we should have done it then, you're saying.
But again, by purposes of including the any and all other approvals required by state law, you essentially did.
So why don't we just keep that language?
You can.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, if at the end of the day, they get approval for Raritan, that's on them.
Right, that's the point I was gonna make.
I mean,
that
we can't really
put
oppose,
something in.
like, can we?
Well, put it this way, through resolution compliance, now that we're having this conversation, one of the things that's going to be looked at is that state law required by statute? Do we have it? No. So my opinion, you're gonna end up with the exception. Exactly.
I just need to validate Susan's point that, we do have a lot of shared property lines in this town and township, and we want the same courtesy back from our township, because it was the other side.
And we've given it to them.
Right, and I'm referring to you on this, Kara, and as much as it's an existing building, it's a change of use. I think you're right. But it shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't.
Look, I think, I might chime in one more time. Karen and I disagree on what the law is. We disagree that, we can agree to disagree on that we need their approval, given all the reasons I said. But the site plan was already approved by RAT. So, if you want to impose the condition, we'll attempt to comply with it. We don't know if they'll grant it, and we don't know if you'll have the cannabis dispensary at the site, should you approve it tonight. But if you do it the other way, where you, say we need to comply with all governmental approvals, we could also wind up in Raritan poking its head up again and derailing the, and it doesn't want a project. You're saying it does. We just don't know the answer to that question. We're here tonight. We don't know how Raritan's going to react if you oppose an affirmative condition to do.
Your argument is really good. Hopefully their attorney's gonna agree with you.
Can I ask a question about the Burger King application? I understand that the Burger King, this site and the Pearl Vision are essentially one overall site plan application, but did the Burger King site any of their parking or any of the parcel at all that was any of the parking that was dedicated to Burger King? None of that was overlapping into Raritan Township, was it?
No, but
I think that's the difference, and that's why we didn't put the burden on the applicant to go get a letter of no interest from Raritan, was because all the use was not, in Raritan Township.
Hold on.
Where other sites all over town, we've done that.
Hold on.
I'll say it.
No.
No, I'm getting it.
Okay. So I want to straw poll here, because it seems to me that there's two ways to go. Do we add this condition, or do we leave it as the any and all outside agencies and yada yada? They're just saying, put it in.
I
Begrudgingly, put it in.
very begrudgingly.
Okay. You're saying put it in, what are you saying? Give a thought.
Yeah, my thought is put it in and have the government take care of it. Because government works slowly, but it works, to your point. If we have two councils, everybody knows each other. I don't think this applicant should stand in front blindly in front of another municipality. I think we should take care of that. That's my 2 cents.
So put it in or not?
Put it in, but to do something.
Hold hands.
Put it in and don't just say good luck.
Right,
Put it
no.
in and reach out to the mayor of Raritan Township. Reach out and say, we want this, and can we partner?
Karen and I need to have a conversation about.
Partnership, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe even a letter from our board to the Raritan Planning Board might be appropriate in this case
Yeah.
versus other applications.
if I'm reading the tea leaves right now, we're approving the application.
It
I
feels that
think,
way.
I think that Raritan Township can see that you want the application or willing to do whatever's necessary. You're there, you're behind the, I don't think you would approve something only to hope that it fails somewhere else. So I mean, I think that action in and of itself carries a lot of weight.
If I might chime in too, if I'm hearing Mr. Cook correctly, I would imagine that if the board is going to impose this affirmative condition, there might also be language in that condition that the planning board and its professionals agree to cooperate with the applicant in trying to obtain this letter of no interest or approval from the Raritan Township boards.
We don't usually commit our professionals to do work in another town. That's usually a hard thing for us to do, so. And then there might be conflicts and things I want to be careful of with our professionals in other jurisdictions, but.
In my mind, is coming the other way, and it maybe, I'm just throwing this out. What, isn't it, can't we say that we recommend that they approach Raritan, but we're not in.
How about this?
It's not,
How about
and then it's not, but the risk is the applicant's risk. Is
So,
that the wrong way to go?
I'm sorry, the
Just throwing
problem
it.
is that when, I don't know if this is gonna fall to me, but I'm gonna be doing resolution compliance, or somebody's gonna be doing resolution compliance, and what you don't want is some planner or some engineer or some, not an attorney, to try to weigh in on whether or not this applicant should have gone to Raritan, didn't go to Raritan, and therefore can't fulfill the terms of the resolution.
And I understand that,
So
but
we
you
need
said,
definitive language as to what they need to do, because it can't be open to interpretation. We know what they want. You know.
I was
but-
coming from the viewpoint that, like, we didn't put it in Burger King and we left it out, but then that they're aware that Raritan could still have a legal thing to come and say, no, we will not let you do that.
But that's it, but if we just leave it to outside agency approvals, the question is gonna come to one of your professionals, not Kara, not the borough attorney, whether or not they've satisfied those outside agency approvals. And
No different than DEP
Yeah.
or anything else.
With DEP, it's much more simple.
Yeah.
For anybody else.
So let me.
What if we had language, just think about this for a second, something along the lines of, you know, the board takes no. Mostly the board takes no issue, but, you know. The board is comfortable if the township wishes to relinquish its land use terminations to the board, something along those lines where instead of making an affirmative agreement to cooperate, because we don't understand what that means. But you know, takes no issue to accepting a letter of no interest or non-applicability from the township. Okay, I'm trying to give you something.
I'm trying to keep. So,
Well, there could be some finding, instead of a condition, there could be some finding of what the board wants to do to affirmatively put this forward with the other team.
So I think we can impose, I think it sounds like we can put the condition in, but I think we can then also, not as a condition of resolution, I think that as the chair, I can ask our secretary to draft the letter encouraging, right? Like, I don't know how you do this. You know, like,
That's an issue, just personally, I mean,
Yeah.
think about this logically, we're trying to think about this logically.
Yeah.
Why should Raritan Township have an issue with seating to the borough? They should. There's no building, there's no parking, there's nothing. I don't think we need to take an extra step that, who knows what that might be. We've, in theory, approved the application. We've authorized the use in town. So it's pretty clear what you want.
But can I just come at it like Karen was saying from a different perspective? Should Raritan Township say, we're gonna allow two? Now, do they already have one?
That's a different question.
That's it. Again,
But-
I'm not avoiding, I don't.
But I just didn't know why there would be an issue if,
No, because they didn't issue the license.
okay.
Which is another point towards the argument that's going to be made to the township as to why it shouldn't.
Okay.
Can our resolution state that we know that the applicant made, what was the phrase, what did you notify, made notification on this date as of
Those
the date
are
of
the
this
findings.
hearing,
They absolutely.
they have not responded. We make note of that fact that they have not responded. Therefore, de facto, not assume, different word probably. We are presuming that they have no interest, but
I know, I don't
still,
wanna presume.
whatever word you want to put in there.
Well, it could just be factual.
We're-
In the factual
They
statements,
haven't
this is
responded
what
as of
happened.
this date, but it still is a legal requirement to maybe get that confirmation.
All right, that's
That's not
how we do
disappointing.
it. This is how we do it. Yeah.
That's a good idea, Karen.
Yeah, as one of our findings of fact, we acknowledge that notice was given, and by the date of the hearing, there has been no communication from Meriden Township expressing any objection or support either way to this, yeah, and then,
The applicant acknowledged that the site plan was approved by Raritan Township. You know,
right, whatever.
there was information in there as well.
Right. We put that as kinds of our findings, and then we can impose this, then we can impose the legal thing, and then. Good, good.
If this went to Raritan Township because it's in illegal use, would it be a Board of Adjustment matter or planning matter, Board of Adjustment matter? John Drill is like.
I know.
We're at the point in time right now where we're going to have any additional discussion with regard to the conditions.
Okay, I think we're done with conditions.
Okay.
All right, so what I need is a motion. To that, I need a motion to grant minor site plan and conditional use approval. Subject to the C2 variance, including the C2 variance with the conditions on the sign for the windows. And subject to all the conditions, we just spent a lot of time going.
And I'm just confirming the windows, it's going to be a logo of no 6 square feet allowed per window.
Yes.
Or surface, because there's doors.
And you were indicating the CRC.
We're not allowing it. We're not allowing
Okay,
it.
so the doors would be black.
Where are the doors?
The black.
Yes.
So it's not remembered.
Okay, it's what they proposed.
They wanted the CRC regulation mentioned in there as well.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I understood what the square footage was.
So can I get a motion?
I'll move it.
All right, Jim. you're gonna go-
Engelhardt will second.
Yeah, Karen was first. All right, Karen's-
Yeah, no, I think Karen's
Karen's
first.
first. Any further discussion?
Ms. Gibbon? Yes. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes.
Councilwoman Engelhardt?
Yes.
Champion?
Yes.
Dashna?
Yes.
Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Ms. Weitzman?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chairman.
All right, item 9 on the agenda is the continuation of the public hearing for Central Station LLC application 2023-5 lot 34, lot 739, lot 7 Mine Street. Continued from October 3rd and October 24th, 2023. We are in receipt of a letter from the applicant's council asking that we continue this matter to December 19th meeting. They are working on revisions to the plans to address comments from the board. And so we are going to carry this matter to December 19th, 2023, 7 p.m. in this room. No further notice will be given. I will point out though, and maybe Carrie, you can reach out to Mr. Grunberg. We are 3 weeks away.
Yes, of today, so we
Today
will
is-
be less than 3 weeks tomorrow.
And less than 3 weeks tomorrow, we do not have those updated plans to which they refer. So I think that maybe.
I spoke to him about the striker resolution,
Yeah.
because he had questions.
So I would suggest you would strongly encourage them to issue another letter and let's carry this again, because if they're not gonna be ready for that meeting, we should look to.
Yeah, I don't want-
the January meeting. And make sure we've got enough time to act and. All right,
Excuse me, Chairman, you should move Mr. Goodsman off as a panelist. He's still on.
he is, he's gone.
Yeah.
No, he's not. He's not.
Is he gone now?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, So that's item 9. Item 10 is chair items. So just a few things I want to mention. First off is, we already mentioned when we did the HPC report that we will not be having the HPC. We're not going to have the public hearing on the amendments to the historic preservation element of the comprehensive plan because HPC needs more time to do their work. So that's going to get pushed to 2024. So I just want to put that there. Eileen did circulate a draft to everyone got this, right? Yeah. Of
Yes,
the
with
next
the
year's-
agenda.
with the agenda, a draft of 2024 meeting dates. I did want to make a couple of suggestions. There were several that were highlighted here that that have conflicts.
Yeah, just the ones that I found.
Yeah. So I would say
May
that,
not be all of these.
yeah, so April 23rd, I would suggest if possible, we move that up to April 16th. And have two, I know 2 in a row, but because I'm going to talk about May. May 14th is fine. May 28th is the day after Memorial Day and it is the 4th week, so it's likely the council is going to push to that Tuesday. I would suggest that we move, not have only one meeting in May, have a meeting on June 4th and then June 25th, and not have a meeting on June 11th. There's another holiday on the state calendar on the 11th.
I'm gone the 25th.
Okay, but it's 4th Tuesday, we can cover it if we have to. So my suggestion was if we say April 9th, April 16th, May 14th, June 4th, June 25th. And that way, I know it's only one meeting in May, but
June 4th and June 20th.
and June 25th, it would be, I think, a way to avoid the holidays.
And then just keep May 14th or so?
And keep May 14th, yeah.
And no May 20th.
And no May 20th, because it's the day after Memorial Day, my guess is that's a big council meeting.
So that really leaves a big gap.
It does leave a
from
gap.
April to
It
May.
leaves April 16th to May 14th to June 4th, but I'm sorry, May 14th to June 4th, yeah, so, but I don't know the better way to do it with
We
holidays.
could add a meeting and if we find our workload is looking busy.
Yeah, how about the first week of May?
We could do May 7th, maybe right after Easter. No, it's not after Easter. No. That might be a way to do it. It is Easter, isn't it? May 5th is Easter. That's why I was trying to avoid that.
Yeah,
That week, because of break. The other one that I would say is November 12th, which is the November 11th is Veterans Day and
We can
council.
do April 30th.
April 30th is not a great date either. It is technically also it's the end days of Passover if you want to be completely observant of the calendar, but it is the end of the end, so we could do April 30th. November 12th, I think we can just push to the 13th and make a Wednesday meeting. Because
Isn't somebody in here on the second Wednesday of the month?
that would be the second Wednesday of
Which one are you talking about? November now?
November. The Shade Tree second Wednesday?
HPC's third Wednesday, I think
Right.
Shade Tree might be in here on the second Wednesday.
All right. I just,
And it's also the league.
yeah, and the problem is that the week before is election day and then there's Thanksgiving. Like, it's November and I don't want to give Todd any more trauma, so I
And
was.
second Wednesday.
Well, actually, Thanksgiving is the 28th.
Work stuff out, but.
Yeah, so I think it's from the 28th, it's not the 20,
Not the
okay.
21st.
So then we could probably, then in November, we could do the.
12th and 19th.
Not the 12th, the 19th and 26th. Let's see if that works.
So you're gonna meet the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Tuesday before Thanksgiving,
Oh, the 25th.
20, whatever.
26th.
26th.
The 19th and 26th.
19th and 26th of 2 meetings, because we tend to need meetings in the beginning of the year.
Seems pretty.
Those are my suggestions. I don't know if any of folks, anyone else can bother to look at the calendar.
Yeah, I gotta look at.
So.
Yeah, we can discuss it
So-
again on.
Discuss it again at the next meeting. I'm gonna ask Susan if you can just, We get, I know it's early yet, but if we get a rough sense of council's calendar, if you could bring that. Just to make sure we have that.
Yeah, I can talk to Carla about it and kind of see if we could map it out. I'd say the only comment I had on what you had just said is perhaps keep the April 30th, since it is the end of Passover week, and see how that fits. But let's look at the council calendar as well.
Calendar's not gonna be ready, Susan. Carolyn and I just talked about when we're gonna sit down and look at it, so.
Okay,
You can
all
set
right,
you can set ours.
we'll work it out.
Again, this doesn't need to get adopted until January 9th, anyway, so I just give people.
We have time.
All right, those were the two things I had under chair items. Anybody, I'm sorry, next meeting, sorry, the third thing under chair items is the next meeting on December 12th, which we tentatively have, on there,
We have the resolution for the Brown Street striker.
right, we just had,
Resolution tentatively for Plus Wellness.
which isn't gonna be there, but we can put it in there as a placeholder, because there's
As
a
a
lot of work in
placeholder.
that, you know.
We did continue the public hearing for Wartsville Road properties. That those revised plans came in today.
Oh, they did.
So let's
They
let's
did,
let's
but
be
it's
very honest, there's
2
no
weeks.
way, it's 2 weeks, they're very detailed, especially around stormwater. I don't know how we can communicate to the council that that's not enough time for professionals to review, and that,
I mean, they are continued, but, if.
Well, they were put on notice that our professionals needed 3
3
weeks.
weeks,
So
they were.
We told them that.
I have emails to them, I have,
so could we,
communicated that clearly.
so
You
could-
told them that already.
Well, this is prior to this
Before,
meeting,
okay.
before they came
So-
in, I did not follow up today, I wanted to speak to the board.
so can we send them a note and say, they can, yeah, maybe, yeah, if you could do that, because just, there's no way that we're gonna be ready to have that on the 12th, there's not enough time for professionals, but we gave them enough notice that we needed at least 3 weeks. So theoretically, I don't wanna say the 19th, but it could be the 19th, but that's still tight, but I would say that if, I just wanna look at Bob, because
Wasn't
the
that 3 weeks
engineering,
though?
that's 3 weeks, because we got it today, it's just 3 weeks.
Well, we're going to,
Wardsville.
what we can do is, on the 12th, we're going to have to adjourn it.
Yeah.
Well, let me put that, sorry, we've adjourned it to the 12th.
Right.
On the 12th, we would have to adjourn it. We can decide where we are on the 12th. If Bob feels comfortable and everybody feels comfortable, then we can say we'll adjourn it to the 19th. If they still need more time, then we can go to January.
Yeah, all right, so.
And I'm not here on the 19th.
So we can get coverage.
I did speak to the clerk today, I was gonna talk to the mayor and.
Okay.
Sort those things out.
Okay. So let council know for Wardsville also, but they just got it in, which that's a little. Remind the board that if the HOA continues to be represented by outside counsel, I'm gonna recuse myself from Wardsville. And if they've resolved it and it's not, then I can still chair, but I'm gonna. I may just recuse regardless. On Wardsville.
Not,
12. We have that, it came in and we said.
So the 12th is Chick-fil-A. We can do Chick-fil-A. Yeah. Chick-fil-A wanted to be on there, and I think we can get them in now.
Yeah.
We can, so I think that's good for them.
I have sent all myself.
Yeah.
And then we also have executive session.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about professionals, executive session as well. All right, those are the 3 things I had under chair items. Anybody have anything else?
I do, I was waiting for attorney's professional course, but I want to bring up the wall. The wall is starting to decay. I noticed a panel is broken, a panel is missing now. It's right at the border of the big fake sign. But there is, panels are slipping, and there is now, you can now see the infrastructure on the wall in 2 locations. I saw that on Sunday.
Oh, you're talking about on the upper left and lower right of the temporary billboard?
It's not the upper, they're both sort of like down.
Because the billboard was not intended to be a square originally, it has some jogs in it. But when they did the temporary banner, it's a square. So there
No.
should be things to the,
There's pieces now missing. There were, that were there.
were they?
Yeah, Yeah, there are pieces of their fake stone panels that are broken or missing or shifted. And because there's missing, then other things are now starting to shift. Like think of what's that game or everything. That's it, yeah. So I don't know where you are with that, Kara.
Yeah, where are we?
But I mean, I can tell you that I had a conversation with our tax assessor and he has or is going to deem it substantially complete because they haven't worked on it. And he's going to fully assess them for taxes now.
Hold on, let's discuss doing that, because the direction I got from the board at the last meeting was you're gonna go the abandonment route. We're gonna get one last shot, because we're saying, because no one has responded to us.
Okay.
No one has appeared at the hearing. We are essentially concluding that you've abandoned this property.
Then what?
But
then does it fall on the boroughs?
I that's why I haven't finalized it. But I'm concerned when we say substantially complete versus abandoned.
So they can abandon it substantially.
People walk away from houses and leave with the bank and somebody's paying the taxes.
Mayor, I totally don't disagree with you. I just want a couple seconds just to think that that very well may be the exact way to go, but that's where we were last time, and that's the route we're going.
Yeah, because we can also have our property maintenance official start to hit them with summons now.
I think we should.
Okay.
I don't have a problem. Then I'll put that in there.
And we'll do that.
And then, as I remember it, the abandonment thing, when we talked about it in the actual. And I actually got no. Already on the record.
I just want to go on record that we need to make sure that we use that substantially complete terminology very carefully. Because that triggers stuff.
So,
That's the tax.
and that's that is up, it's 100% in his jurisdiction to do it by law, not mine, not the council.
And I can make
the
it
tax
clear that
assessor.
it means something different than this. I just want to, do it.
The abandonment, when we had the original discussions, was that they were then responsible for taking it down. So I think that's a really important thing to me, is that we are not then responsible for taking it down, but they are then.
I don't disagree, but if they're not responding.
I know they're not.
If they're not responding, I can make them take it down. The data I gave you. No, because wherever there's no ID, it's slipped, the folder things are slipping.
Any possibility of looking into that and seeing if it creates some sort of hazard?
I'm gonna call our property maintenance officer tomorrow. And I will talk to him about it because, it hasn't been, it's weedy, it's overgrown, it's got dead ivy all over it, it's now got broken components. So we'll let him make a determination and see what he can do.
We're gonna end up putting 17 liens on the thing and then we're still gonna have to pay it.
And yet they're keeping up their license with DOT. That's the interesting thing.
All right, any other chair items? All right, professional reports, anything else, Kara?
Bills first.
Bills, sorry, thank you. Bills were sent out, can I get a motion on bills?
Second.
Mr. Cook? Yes. Mayor Carroll?
Yep.
Councilwoman Engelhardt?
Yes.
Yes.
Blaschner? Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Ms. Giffen? Ms. Weitzman?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Thank you. Now professional reports, thank you. Kara, anything else? Beth, good, Bob, good, Jay. You do anything to go to executive session? Then can I get a motion to adjourn?
Bye.
Night, everybody.
Good night.